The Blast from Our Past Network.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom. Tonight's episode, Body Parts, starring Jeff Fahey, Kim Delaney, and Brad Dourif.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcasting After Dark. I am one half of the Pad team proper, Corey, a.k.a. Sleazy C. Joined with me, as always, my brother from another mother, Zach, the Total Snacket Schaefer. And this week, we have a movie brought to us by Cam Sully of the Jacked Up Review Show podcast. And if y'all remember, he brought us The Believers a while back. But this time, he is bringing to the table Body Bags, starring Jeff.
Body Parts.
Wow. I knew I was going to fuck that up right out of the gate. Zach and I already off air talked about it, but you know what? I'm going to leave it all in. I'm just going to leave this all in because I'm an idiot.
I mean, it's the better version of a segment in Body Bags.
Right, dude? I mean, honestly, it is interesting that it kind of does have this weird tie to body bags. But yes, we are reviewing Body Parts. At least I got it out of the way right away this time. It didn't just like lands in the middle.
Yeah, nice work. Nice job. Nice job.
And nice job to Cam Sully for this one, dude.
Woo, baby. I am feeling jacked up to be talking about this on our podcast. Wow. Cam Sully, you know, if he was a baseball player, his baseball card would say RBI 400.
I don't know anything about baseball statistics, so I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. Is that good? I don't know. Or
what
1,000.
if it actually turns out that it's bad or something?
Yeah, no, sorry. Take two. If I was a...
We're doing great
Cam
tonight,
Sully,
guys.
If Cam Sully was the first baseman for the Atlanta Braves in 1994, he'd be David Justice. And then everybody right now is going, he didn't play first base. I don't know who did. I just threw that out there. My point is, Cam hit it out the ballpark. Is that... Yeah, that works, right? Yeah.
We're off the rails already.
We're off the rails, but I'm sure Cam appreciates that. Look, guys, here's the deal. If you are a Patreon subscriber and you sign up to the highest tier, we will break down... we will bastardize the movie you choose. Wait, sorry. Take one again. We will break down the movie you choose at the highest tier. And you pick the movie. Robert Ortiz has picked a movie. Aaron Gilmer has picked a movie. Our great friend Crystal has picked a movie. Like the countless people who have picked movies. Paulette is another one who is a awesome person, and she's got movies coming down the pipe. Cam is today's movie picker. We're picking something. Something's getting picked right now. Anyways, my point is, guys, you pick the movie, we break it down. Cam just happened to pick a movie that, well, Corey will give his thoughts on it in just a moment, but I freaking love this movie. I have a long history with this movie. But I'll get to mine in a minute.
And I would like to add on top of that this is actually an entire month of Cam Sully picks. So the next movie we're going to be breaking down, Zach will be doing, and that'll be coming in a couple weeks.
You will not be disappointed by that either. Thank you, Cam. Cam backwards is Mac, by the way. Just want to point that out.
Mac attack.
And he's the Mac. He's the Mac. Return of the Mac. Oh my God! Top of the world. Remember that song?
Of course I remember that song. Are you crazy? It's on my playlist, baby. It's an awesome song. It's always a banger.
What'd you do?
So my history with Body Parts, I got it right this time. I saw it right when it first came out on VHS. I watched it with Luke. I'm sure we were ready for it because of Fangoria. Maybe a trailer or something, on some other VHS or whatever. But I remember watching it. I remember loving it. I remember being, shocked by it. And then I never saw it again until, just now. And I watched it with my wife for the funsies viewing, and we both were blown away by how good this movie is. It doesn't have to be this good. It doesn't. This movie could have been silly and cheesy, no problem, but every single actor in this movie is turning in such a phenomenal performance, especially Paul Ben-Victor. Holy fucking shit. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but his whole, crazy guy thing, he's amazing. But yeah, dude, there's a giant gap in my life where this movie didn't exist for me, and that will never happen again, because I will be watching this movie on the regular and I will be shouting its praises from the rooftops.
I hate this movie. I'm kidding. Yeah, look, my history with this, I equally, as my wife would say, pop chub for Jeff Fahey. He's just an amazing actor. Loved him ever since I saw him in Silverado with those steel blue eyes. I will point out and shout out a movie called Split Decisions that he did with Gene Hackman and Craig Sheffer. That will not be the only time I bring up Craig Sheffer tonight. It's a boxing movie. It's a travesty that it's not available on Blu-ray, or I don't even think it's available on DVD. Split Decisions is an amazing, awesome boxing movie. If you've never seen it, you can find it on YouTube for free. And he's killer in that. And I think that was the first, that gave me, I started getting Jeff Fahey, man crushes on him.
Fuck yeah.
And then in 91, I was 14 years old, the height of my horror movie watching back in the day. My brother and I, and probably his friends too, went to the movie theaters to see Body Parts because we were big Eric Red fans because of The Hitcher. And after this was Bad Moon, obviously.
Which is in your stack to review, so we will get to another Eric Red movie one of these days.
Yeah, and I cannot wait for that. And we'll get to The Hitcher when it gets a proper Blu-ray release, which I think it just did from Umbrella Entertainment, which is a region-free Blu-ray company. They did a Megaforce, which is really good.
Yeah, if Umbrella is the one that put it out, then yeah, they're an Australian-based company, and every Blu-ray they put out is region-free. I have their Punisher, the Dolph Lundgren movie version that has multiple cuts and everything, and I believe you do too, because we're going to try to cover it one day with Tim over at Talking Back. It's just been kind of hard to put that together. But yeah, Umbrella, man, I love the fact that they put out region-free Blu-rays.
Me too. They put out one for Red Rock West, and now Vinegar Syndrome's doing a Red Rock West. So something tells me The Hitcher will wind up on Vinegar Syndrome down the road as well, which either way, I'm going to get. Anyways, my point was I saw it when it came out in the theater. Video Man, which I ended up working at, of course, had the Body Parts poster when it came out on VHS. And I got the poster for $0.25 from the video store when they were selling posters. And I had that poster on my wall for a good part of a couple years. The one that's actually the cover of the Blu-ray from Shout Factory or Scream Factory or whatever the factory it is.
I love that poster. It's great.
Yeah, and it's another reason why I probably was a single teenager at the time, because I've got a big poster that says Body Parts. I had horror posters everywhere, and I never had a horror girlfriend. Never had a horror girlfriend back in the day. Never once had a girlfriend that was into horror films. They were always like, "Oh, they're gross. They scare me." I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
I had a Demon Knight poster. I had a Jade poster. Remember with
I had a Jade poster also, the green one,
the green
with the red writing.
Yep, I had that.
Yeah, where she puts her heel in the guy's asshole.
Yes, I had a couple heavy metal posters that were just basically reprints of the covers and stuff like that. And then I had cool. I had some Chatty and Fat posters. I was a big movie poster fan back in the day.
Me too. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, my walls were covered like wallpaper.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't care. I just loved what I loved, and I still to this day love what I love, like 90s cartoons.
Now, you got to call it out, buddy. You have a little bit of a connection to Jeff Fahey, or maybe a family member of Jeff Fahey?
Oh, yeah. So I taught his nephew, Michael Fahey, and when I was a teacher back in the day. And
So
his
this is
brother,
the son of one of his like 12 brothers?
Yeah, his brother was a gaffer, I think, or like a behind the scenes guy.
Yeah, I think they're all grips and gaffers, and then Jeff, I think, is the one that's the actor.
Yeah, his brother looks nothing like him, but sounds like him.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, which is wild. I never met Jeff. I know that Jeff came, I think, 1 year to like Grandparents and Special Friends Day. It's where you bring a family member to see the work you're doing at school. I could have sworn I saw Jeff on campus when Michael was older. Yeah, anyways, his nephew is a great kid, and yeah, taught his kid. It was like, I see the name Fahey on there, and I'm like, I said, do you have a family member named Jeff? He goes, yeah, it's my uncle. I'm like, yeah, he's an actor, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. File that under T for toy.
Dude, that's
H
freaking
for
awesome.
toy. Yeah, no, he was super cool, and yeah, my little connections. Dun, dun.
Well, I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about with the breakdown of this movie. We both have the Shout Factory Blu-rays, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they're in print, but you can pretty much easily find them. They're not that expensive. I watched the 50-minute Eric Red discussion, interview. So I got some information from that I'll try to plug in. But then I also watched the 15-minute Paul Ben-Victor interview because I was like, I got to see what this guy has to say. And not really much, information, but I was just, like I said, I was absolutely riveted by his performance in this film. And like So I was high as fuck when we first watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is like mesmerizing. This scene's mesmerizing. I was like, but maybe that was just the weed. So when I went to actually break it down, I was just as mesmerized, stone cold sober.
Yeah, he's everything that What's-His-Face in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 wanted to do in those scenes where he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, Paul Ben-Victor crushed it. Absolutely. And we'll get to him in the cast and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You want to start with Eric Red?
Yeah, Eric Red, I think we mentioned The Hitcher, and also Bad Moon.
Now, I always thought he directed Hitcher, but he didn't. He only wrote it.
No, he wrote it.
And he wrote Near Dark as well. Holy shit.
Yeah, he wrote Near Dark. But he wrote and directed a movie called Cohen and Tate with Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin. It's a great crime thriller. I love that movie. I think Shout Factory put it out at one point on Blu-ray, and then they did. Suddenly it was just gone. You're like, what happened? If you can seek that movie out, highly recommend it. He doesn't do a lot of movies, so. He wrote Blue Steel, which is a sexy cop movie with Jamie Lee Curtis, directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Yep. Who directed Near Dark, so.
Yeah, so there's your connection there. And, Robert Harmon directed The Hitcher. Eric Red, like you said, wrote it. There's no real connection there, I don't think. But if we ever break down The Hitcher, then we'll dig a little bit deeper on that. But we're not going to do that today.
Yeah. No, this is all about Eric Red, and he wrote the script for this. It's based on a novel. I think it was a French novel or novella, maybe called Choice Cuts. I believe.
Choice Cuts is a place that I like to eat at. No, it's not. Fresh Choice.
Fresh Cuts, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Fresh Cuts is where I get my hair cut at the hair cutter.
Before we get into the cast, though, we got to talk about the producer of this film, and it's a name that we have discussed before on TV Obscura.
He comes up often. I believe he's come up in I feel like he's come up in a horror film as well that we've discussed on Pad potentially. Frank Mancuso Jr. Is the producer. He was the producer of the War of the Worlds TV series, Friday the 13th TV series, all of the Friday the 13th movies, or almost all of them. April Fool's Day. For some reason I was like, oh, did he produce any of the movies we've done on Pad? No, but we just talk about them all the time. So
yeah, they're like such a part of our DNA.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a great producer.
And
I would say, like, next to Joel Silver, he's produced a shit ton of movies that I love.
And his father, Frank Mancuso Sr., was, I think, head of Paramount at the time, or a high-level producer maybe at the time.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yes, it does. Actually, I think he was head of Paramount, I believe. So, yeah.
Nepotism.
Great. But sometimes it works. Also, I mean, Panos Cosmatos, that's another nepotism one. But, I mean, Mandy's a great freaking movie, so...
Look, I got no problem with it. I'm just a little jealous.
Touche. Aren't we all, though?
Yes, we are. Do we want to talk about the makeup effects guy?
Yeah, so real quick, I wanted to call out the guy who does all the effects in the movie, which I think are spectacular. The arms and everything, the sockets that you can see right into like Jeff Fahey's soul, when you're looking into his sockets.
Right.
That's done by Gordon Smith, and he did the effects on Platoon and Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, I mean, two like well-known, top-notch films, so that's good stuff.
And Eric Red specifically, I think, wanted him because both of those are kind of war movies, even though Jacob's Ladder is obviously, weird and everything. But he's got this whole technique to him where his limbs and stuff look a lot more real because he doesn't use just straight up like prosthetics or whatever. He's got this like a specific chemical makeup that he uses that gives like the flesh like this translucent look or whatever. And it's really good and kind of... He kind of has this like war violence look to it.
Yeah, it's very brutal and real, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I want to point out the cinematographer actually, Theo Van de Sande.
Sure, whatever, buddy.
It's John Lev. He was the DP on Blade. And because there's a couple shots in this movie that really stand out to me where I'm like, ooh, that was really cool. I mean, I want to... Blade is definitely a good one to point out, but he's got a laundry list of like top-notch big movies. Like Wayne's World is another one he did. The First Power, which I would not be surprised if we cover that down the road.
I saw that in the theater, and yeah, we're gonna cover First Power one of these days. Isn't it coming out on Shout or somebody, or didn't it just recently come out or something on Blu-ray?
I think it did, or yeah, it's coming back out. Miracle Mile is another one he did, and Miracle Mile, if you've never seen that movie, I think Dustin and I are going to cover that one because the director of Miracle Mile is also the director of Cherry 2000. So Steve Desjardins. So look. No, don't be surprised if that name comes up again down the pipe on Podcasting After Dark or $2 late fee.
Yeah, you've been talking about Miracle Mile pretty much since we've started this podcast. And I have the, I can't remember, was it Kino? Somebody put out Cherry on Blu-ray. So I picked that up because I remember watching it when I was a kid, not loving it, and then watching it. I think Myra and I watched it about a year and a half ago. I enjoyed it. Still didn't quite like love it, but I saw what they were trying to do with it, and I thought, okay, it's still a good time. It's no body parts that's for sure.
No, it stands alone. It stands alone on its own, though.
Yeah,
it's an interesting film, just like Cherry 2000 kind of stands alone on its own too.
Agreed.
Unique, quirky films. But yeah, Miracle Mile. It's coming out on 4K. I know the director did some more stuff with it.
Okay.
So, anyways, if anyone's interested, how about this? How about that cast? Huh?
How about this amazing cast? There is no bad person in the bunch.
No, we talked about Jeff Fahey already and our love for him. Lindsay Duncan plays Dr. Agatha Webb. I got her confused a little bit with Julie Delpy from The Morning After or Before Sunrise, or that trilogy she did with Ethan Hawke, those love movies.
Yes. They have that same sort of blonde hair, fair skin, sort of big eyes, angelic look to them. I know.
Yeah, like British,
I know exactly
French.
who you're talking about.
Yeah. She looked a lot like an ex-girlfriend of mine, too, which was eerie. Like a much older version. Anyway, she's an accomplished actor who's been in, tons of mainstream movies, including Birdman, the movie with Michael Keaton.
Great movie.
Resurrected his career. Anyway, she's a very well distinguished actor.
Brings a lot of gravitas to the role.
Yes, she does, and she gets what she deserves. Kim Delaney plays Jeff Fahey's wife in this. Jeff obviously plays Bill Cruikshank. She plays Karen Cruikshank. She plays a Karen, a sympathetic Karen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We've lost that name, Karen. Karen can never sort of be done again. Like it's over for Karens, right?
It's
Karens.
such a shame. It's such a shame because I have a kind of like a surrogate aunt named Karen, and she's the sweetest lady. She's so sweet. And I'm like, oh, bummer.
Now, Kim Delaney is the sister of Dana Delaney, right? Are they sisters?
I mean, I'm going to say yes. I don't know for certain. But she's the daughter of Joan and Jack Delaney. But I know that she had a notable career on NYPD Blue.
Oh yeah.
But I remember her from another Craig Sheffer movie called That Was Then, This Is Now. If you've never seen That Was Then, This Is Now, I talked about it with Jill Sholin. I absolutely love that movie. That's probably in my top 5 of all-time 80s movies. Emilio Estevez, Craig Sheffer, Kim Delaney, the dude from Lamar from Revenge of the Nerds, Jill Sholin, obviously. That Was Then, This Is Now. So good. So good.
Okay. I remember you talking about that. By the way, just kind of quickly scrolling through her IMDb, she was on an episode of Hooperman.
Of course she was.
Oh, God.
And
that
if you
show's
don't know
so good.
Hooperman, go back and listen to our TV Obscura episode of Hooperman.
Oh, God, that show was great.
The next actor in this, he plays a Detective Sawchuk, which that name definitely does not fit the actor that we're about to describe. Zakes Mokae, who I used to always say Zakes Mokae because I just thought it sounded a lot better, but it's Zakes Mokae.
Well, according to Eric Red, it's Zakes Mokae.
Yeah, well, he's dead now.
Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately, he passed away in 2009. But I just watched him twice, back to back, a couple months ago before we talked to Richard Stanley, because he's in Dust Devil. He's playing also like a detective in that as well, and he's fantastic in that.
So good in that. So good in this. Of course, I think most people will remember him from The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Yeah.
One of the most terrifying Wes Craven movies, in my opinion. Legit.
Yes.
I, hands down, think it's interesting. Wes Craven's best run. This is a little plug to our Carpenter Factor series, which you can check out on Patreon, the Carpenter Factor series, where we discuss every single one of a director's films and their filmography. We call it the Auteur de Force series.
Yeah, you
We're
named
just
it
wrapping
that.
up. Yeah, we're just wrapping up John Carpenter right now. I know our good buddy David Irons would love for us to cover Wes Craven. Will we? You'll find out pretty soon because we're going to be revealing who the next auteur de force will be coming up. But anyways, my point is Wes Craven's best run, in my opinion, was the mid-'80s when he did like Shocker and Serpent and the Rainbow, and I think Deadly Friend is pretty good too. Same with John Carpenter, maybe? Well, you'll have to listen to the Carpenter Factor to find out. But maybe not.
And yeah, dude, The Serpent and the Rainbow, man, that movie,
Dude,
it
so
scared
scary.
the shit out of me when I was a kid. When the snake bites him in his face and he kind of like pulls back and it's like, oh my, it's fucking
The spike in the
killed me.
penis?
Oh my God.
And when he's in the coffin and it's filling up with blood and they're like, he's dead, and he's like, I'm not dead, or whatever he says,
Oh my
something
God.
like that.
So
Anyways,
good. Bill Pullman
good.
was great in that movie.
Oh yeah, the president was so great. Brad Dourif plays Remo Lacey. Brad Dourif, of course. Who's Brad Dourif?
For God's sakes, who's Brad Dourif? We all, you know what? If you're listening to Podcasting After Dark, there is one actor you absolutely know, and that's Brad Dourif. But yeah, Chucky. What was his name in it?
Charles Lee Ray.
Lee Ray. Yep. That's
Fun
right.
fact. Ever since Bodhi started, taking baths and showers, I do this little bit with him where I get him to laugh and kind of break up the monotony of bath time. And I have this character that I actually did in kindergarten with Michael Fahey, which he probably remembers too, if he happens to be listening to this. But he used to be called Irwin, and he knew everything. He was so smart. I'm so smart. I know that 2 + 2 = 6. And Bodhi would be like, no, And just like he was so pompous, but he was actually an idiot, kind of like someone who's running for president. And so Irwin later became Charles Lee Ray for some reason. So Bodhi's like, who's Charles Lee Ray? And I'm like, he's this kid who thinks he knows everything. Little does he know that Charles Lee Ray is the serial killer from Chucky.
You're prepping him, baby. You're prepping him.
If you've never seen Mississippi Burning, films about slavery or racism are really hard to watch. But if you want to see racist assholes get their asses handed to them by Willem Dafoe and Gene Hackman, go watch Mississippi Burning. There's a great gif of Gene Hackman grabbing Brad Dourif's balls and crushing them with his hand, with his man hand, because Gene Hackman's a man. Second time I brought up Gene Hackman in this episode, too. Now I want to watch a fucking Gene Hackman movie.
I love Unforgiven.
God, Gene Hackman's so great. And he retired. He just was like, I'm done. I mean,
sure. Why not, right?
Anyways, he crushes Brad Dourif's balls into oblivion. I believe it's Brad Dourif. Anyways, Brad Dourif plays a racist in that too. So, and he's in The Exorcist 3 and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So, it's all good stuff.
We don't need to really call it Charlie Fletcher, right?
No, because that guy,
he's a stunt man. He's just a stunt man, really.
Yeah, and maybe just call out Paul and Peter Murnick.
Yeah,
because Peter Murnick actually has an interesting career.
Oh no, I actually love him in Justified. So yeah, let's stick with Paul.
Cool.
Let's stick with Peter, and I think that's probably about it. We can because we're also gonna save Peter McNeil for the reveal in the show in the movie.
Roger. Paul Ben Victor plays Ray Kohlberg. I mean, Corey already popped Chubb for him, so
Jesus, he's so damn good. But I mean, my God, he's been like in The Wire. He's always playing like this like New York tough guy and kind of thing. And but he does that so well. I mean, he's such a great actor.
Yeah, he doesn't always play that type, but I think he's mostly known for that.
Yeah.
And he's a dude who's just like consistent, he's got a similar look to a lot of other actors. Like, I would say Stanley Tucci kind of fits that look too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bald white actors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
There just are, but he's really good at what he does. So, he's great in this for the 5 minutes of screen time that he has, but it doesn't matter how much time you get. It's what you do with it. And he crushes like Brad Dourif's testicles get crushed in Mississippi Burning.
What's that phrase? No small roles?
Exactly. Just small penises getting crushed by Gene Hackman's man hands. That guy's a man, by the way. Gene Hackman's just like, he's a man.
He's not just a man. He's a man's man.
A man's man.
as Seinfeld would say. And I was shocked when I saw Peter Murnick pop up in this because I love him on Justified. He plays like this state trooper that he was kind of like not a big time character on the show, but he kind of popped up regularly. And he is absolutely fantastic in this movie, too.
Yeah. To be honest with you, when I saw him in this movie for the first time, I'm like, that guy is a good actor for a college basketball player, because I thought he was just like a, college basketball or an NBA guy or something. I didn't realize he was an actual actor who has been in quite a few projects, over 70 TV and movies.
Yeah, he's working to today. I mean, he's been working on his like Billions and everything. So
dating back to the late 80s when he did Tour of Duty and Booker, that terrible spinoff to 21 Jump Street that I wanted to love so bad because I loved Richard Grieco. Anyways,
Tour of Duty, I've talked about that before. I watched that show back in the day. I also used to read the comic book The Nam or The Nam.
Me too.
And I also loved anytime G.I. Joe would like have Vietnam. So I was obsessed with Vietnam when I was a kid, because also too, like every character that I loved had a Vietnam background. Like, Frank Castle, the Punisher, was from Vietnam. Obviously Snake Eyes, Stalker, all those guys. Like that was all Vietnam shit.
It was. In fact, I wrote a poem called A Tie Is Not a Loss. That's from 8-Bit Christmas, by the way. No, and I was going to point out really quickly, he's in one of my favorite baseball movies of all time. It's called Pastime. It came out in 1990. If you are a fan of baseball movies, small independent baseball movies, William Russ is in it. William Russ was on that TV show Boy Meets World, and Glenn Plummer is in it. It's a story about Glenn Plummer is a great actor who's done a lot of character bits, but it's a story about this up-and-coming baseball player, black baseball player, and being kind of mentored by an older white baseball player in a time when it wasn't cool to it takes place in like the late 50s, early 60s. So there's, obviously people not treating this guy very well, but his mentor, William Russ, is really good to him. It's a beautiful story about love of baseball and just, yeah. So if you're a fan of baseball movies, go check out Pastime.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he was on an episode of Seinfeld that I fucking hated when Adam and I went through the whole series. Literally in the entire series, probably the lowest point was, I know you remember, is when Kramer goes to LA, gets accused of being a serial killer. He plays the detective who's sort of tracking him down and everything. And, as a kid, I didn't love those episodes, but going back and like revisiting them and actually like analyzing them, they were fucking terrible. That two-parter, man. So unfortunately he was in that, but still he's a Seinfeld alum. So, got to give him respect for that. I
mean, look, he's on probably your favorite show of all time, and whether it was good or not, he was on it. So there you go.
Actually, a couple of my favorite shows, because he was Justified, is probably one of my favorite shows of all time as well, and he was on that. So yeah,
and he was on Mindhunter too, and I love that show.
People love that show. I've never seen it, but I know people talk about it.
I love that show. I've never seen Justified, so I'll watch Justified. You watch Mindhunter.
Deal. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, before we get into this, just wanted to say again, thank you to Cam Sully for recommending this one, and obviously this whole entire month as well. We're going to have Cam on Wrap Up After Dark at the end of the month, kind of like how we did with Rob after we did a month of his movies a couple months ago. And just everybody go check out the Jacked Up Review Show podcast. It's a great time over there. They're always having fun talking about cool shit. So again, go check out the Jacked Up Review Show podcast.
Yeah, I was on there talking about La Femme Nikita.
There you go. There you go. All right, buddy. Are you ready to cover body bags? Oh, no, I am just kidding. Body parts.
Let's do it.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you'd send a copy to all the members and indicate that...
Bill, there's nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be just fine. You lost your arm in a car accident yesterday. We've transplanted another arm for you.
How does it feel to have someone else's arm?
Dad, it's sort of gross.
Well, that's not how it looks. It's how it works, right? I think there's something the matter with me. Oh! It's the arm.
Billy! What's going on?
There's something wrong with the person I used to belong to.
You have this guy's arm. You don't have his personality.
I want you to run my prints. Any past record I had would show up on the printout, right? You put a killer's arm onto my body and you didn't tell me.
That arm can't do anything you don't want it to.
How do you know that? Where does evil live? Does it live in the soul? In the mind? Maybe it lives in the flesh.
Maybe you got some kind of demon inside of you these days.
Why doesn't anybody want to ask any questions about these operations? I hit my kid. I tried to strangle my wife. I have nightmares every night. I want this man off!
Don't you realize what I and my team have accomplished with that arm?
Take the kids and go to your mother's.
Don't pack, just go now!
body parts.
We're making history here.
The movie starts with a lengthy but cool opening credits segment. We see red medical drawings on a black background as the credits play. It lasts for about 3.5 minutes, and I don't know if you noticed, but this and the end credit sequence, their aspect ratio is different than the movie itself.
I didn't notice that, but that makes sense. And this credit sequence reminded me a lot of Reanimator.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hating it. It was long, but I didn't mind it. For an 88-minute movie, I was like, whoa, this is a long credit sequence for an 88-minute movie.
Well, yeah, and that's why, like, when I went to go break this down, I was like, I actually want to see how long this credit sequence is. Now, that's 3.5 minutes, but also there's probably 10, 15 seconds of the Paramount logo at the beginning, but still, so it's a little bit over 3-minute long opening credit sequence. It's not the movie. It kind of reminds me of Seven, how it's like its own standalone thing.
Yes. Do you remember when everyone tripped balls over Seven's opening credits and like people would talk about it, and that guy went on to do other Fincher credit sequences?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love Seven as much as everybody else did. That movie, changed my life too. And I thought those credit sequence worked really well in that movie. I thought that it kind of got overplayed out with movies moving forward.
Oh yeah. I love Seven too. I still think Brad Pitt sucks in it, but that's, neither here nor there. It's his worst role, actually. I think it's his worst acting he's ever done.
I honestly haven't probably seen it since it probably first came out on DVD a long time ago.
God, yeah.
I don't feel any burning desire to re-watch it unless one day, 10 years down the road, Zach and I cover Fincher, for an auteur or something. I'll probably revisit it. But otherwise, I feel like I got what I needed to get out of that movie.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that you don't need to see more than once. But I loved it, and I loved it. It was right after Shawshank or right before Shawshank, so of course that was Morgan Freeman at his absolute best.
Yeah. No, he's great in that. In both movies, he's great.
And so is he who will not be named anymore.
I know.
Kaiser Soze. There you go.
Which is sad because I love the movie The Ref, and I've been wanting to rewatch that.
That movie's fantastic. You know what movie he sucks in?
You think you can take me? I'm Santa Claus. Pow.
I love that movie.
Me too. Dude, I'm a huge Dennis Leary fan. I watched the fuck out of The Ref back in the day, dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in forever. Okay.
Same.
Cam?
Like, I watched it a million times, but haven't seen it since.
Get on it, Cam. Cam's like, I know what my pick is for Christmas next year.
Yeah, because it's a Christmas movie. The movie opens with Dr. Bill Cruikshank, Jeff Fahey, sitting across from a prisoner named Ray Kohlberg, Paul Benvictor, who's in handcuffs. Bill takes a tape recorder out of his pocket and places it on the table and asks Ray what happened this morning. Ray describes killing his cellmate with a shiv in gory detail. Bill asks how it makes him feel to have taken another man's life. Ray says he feels great. He's going to still be alive come tomorrow morning, but not that son of a bitch. Ray then asks how Bill feels. Does he feel okay sitting there just looking at him like some kind of fucking head case? Then he kind of pleads with Dr. Cruikshank to help him. Can you help me, Doc? Can you fucking do something? Like rewire me so I start doing the right fucking thing? No, I don't think so. Bill just watches Ray scream at him, knowing there's nothing he can really do to help. It's an absolutely amazing scene with a fantastic performance by Paul Benvictor. Now, real quick, guys, I didn't want to transcribe all the text because I was going to just insert that scene in here, but I went to YouTube to try to find it, and I typed in Body Parts 1991 movie, got a couple, clips, got a couple like trailers, then started getting like autopsy videos or abortion videos. I'm like, what the fuck? And I was like, I don't want to see this. So I stopped looking. So I don't know if I can find that clip at all, I will insert it here. But if you don't hear it, it means I got too terrified of YouTube and ran away.
Yeah, note to everyone, because I typed in Body Parts. I like watching movies on YouTube as well because you can, there's a if I'm at the gym or something, I can watch it, like my funsy viewing. If you're going to look for body parts, be very specific. Type in Jeff Fahey, type in Eric Red, type in as much details as possible on YouTube. Otherwise, you're going to get a knock at your door.
Yes. Otherwise, you're going to get on the FBI's list, like Corey did. By the way, I'm going to tell you guys something real bad, real fucking bad. I was trying to find a GIF of from Swingers when he goes, our little baby boy's all grown up and he's all grown up and he's all grown up. And I went to Google and I just, like I always do, I just typed in, some keywords. I typed in Swingers, baby boy, and I got a warning, like an FBI warning saying, do not search for like child pornography. I was like, no, it's Swingers. It's the movie. And, looking back at what I actually typed into the search, and I was like, oh, I'm smarter than this. I should have known better. So guys and gals, be careful with what you put into Google.
You're not running for president on the MAGA ticket, so unfortunately you're going to get flagged. If you were, you'd be totally fine.
Oh, if I was, I'd be the GOP nomination for president. So it's all good. Epstein
Right.
Island, man. It doesn't nothing fucking matters anymore, guys and gals. Cut to nighttime in a small suburban neighborhood. The movie is supposed to take place in New York State, but it was filmed in Toronto, Canada. Because of this, we have a lot of real snow in the movie, and I fucking love it. Now, watching the Eric Red interview, he specifically wanted this movie to be snowy because he felt like it added to that sense of dreariness and that sense of dread. And there's multiple scenes in this movie where it's just snowing and it's not like a big deal. And I'm just like, I fucking love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I also am a huge fan of dates in movies, or movies that will point out specific dates. So, 20, 30 years from now, you can go, but like, on this date, this happened or whatever. And this is one of those movies where it takes place on a certain time in November. And I guess when it was released, that date hadn't happened yet. So it was in the future, so to speak. it's a little thing. I also want to really quickly point out the fact that the composer is, I believe, well, I'm going to bastardize his name too. I think it's Loic Dicker, Dikker. I believe he's a German composer. I just love the score for this movie. And he's got a lot of, foreign films under his belt. Anyways, I really like the score.
No, I'm glad you called that out because, I'm not as musically inclined as you, but I heard the score when I was watching this movie and I felt that it added a lot to the film.
Yeah. It has a very he uses for lack of a better term, like a bow on a piece of sheet metal to make that sound,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Very reminiscent of Hammer horror films or eerie old timey horror films.
Which makes sense because Eric Red is a massive horror fan. He wanted to do, because his first couple movies weren't really horror, he wanted to do an actual proper horror movie. Although I'd say this movie's probably about 60% thriller, 40% horror. But he had his background is Hammer horror films, Peter Cushing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that tracks for sure. He's also a accomplished novelist too. He's written quite a few books apparently.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Bill is in bed writing about what the effects of paternal and other external acts of violence are on a child growing up. His area of study and interest are what forces, internal or external, make someone become bad. His wife, Karen, Kim Delaney, tells him it sounds good when he reads it back to her. Bill sighs and tears up the paper and throws it away. When Karen asks why he did that, Bill says sometimes he just hates what he's doing. It just doesn't make sense. She asks if he's upset about the new case in prison. Yeah, I am. This Kohlberg, right? He's in for 20 years for cutting up his high school sweetheart. Then last week he kills his cellmate. Now, if I can prove that he can be redeemed, that there's some vestige of conscience or sanity, well, that makes this guy eligible to fry. Karen reminds him, you don't pass sentence. That's for the judges, juries, and lawyers. You have to fight to get this guy back to his soul. And Zach, there's the thesis of the movie. And, we've talked about it before, but writers, filmmakers, they'll always put the thesis at the beginning of the film somewhere. And this one is, where does evil live, and can the evil person be redeemed?
Yeah, no, you're right. You hit the nail on the head for sure.
Bill says that he'd like to cure just one person, prove once and for all that you can shake a shattered mind and put it all back together again. But the problem is he's never actually seen it happen. Bill thinks he's a fraud, but his wife says he's the best man she knows.
Aw, what a loyal partner in crime. A couple things I want to point out in this scene is Jeff Fahey's horrible hair in this, and how my hair looks like that too now at this stage, because I've grown it out. And I also want to point out, I'm watching him, I'm like, he looks so much like that actor Alex MacArthur too. That guy has a very similar look to Jeff Fahey, just doesn't have those steel blue eyes. Alex MacArthur is in a movie directed by William Friedkin called Rampage, which is coming out on, I believe, Kino's releasing that. Someone's releasing Rampage soon. Michael Biehn is in that as well. Alex MacArthur plays like the serial killer. They have a similar vibe, like that straight hair.
What year was Rampage?
I feel like it was, I want to say late 80s. Rampage came out.
Oh, 87 with Michael Biehn, you said? Oh, there it is, Alex MacArthur. Let me look at him. He doesn't have an IMDb picture. God damn it.
Really? He doesn't?
Yeah, he doesn't.
That's shocking because that dude was in a ton of things back in the day, including the made-for-TV movie Heat. What Heat ended up becoming. I think it's Showdown in LA or something like that. But for those that don't know, the Michael Mann's Heat was actually a TV movie directed by Michael Mann before it became Heat.
Yeah. Michael Mann likes to revisit his stuff and kind of tweak it and build upon it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Look at Thief. Thief is Heat. So, yeah. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation for when we break down Manhunter someday.
Oh yeah. That'll come around for sure.
Cam, Robert, Paulette.
The next morning, we see Bill getting ready for work while Karen makes breakfast for the two kids, Samantha and Billy. They're about 9 and 12, I'd say, right?
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious that he is affectionate with the daughter and he's an asshole to his son.
It's a piece of playful asshole. So I did note it. So they all walk Bill out to the front door, and he says he'll be home around 6 p.m. He kisses Karen and Samantha and gives Billy a playful forehead tap before getting into the car.
I'm like, what is this though? Like, yeah, that's right. As a father of a young son, it's just not my style. It's not my style, baby.
Well,
I'm like, fuck you. That's why your son's going to turn out to be an asshole, because you didn't give him, affectionate love. Like, hey, I'm going to throw the football with my son, and I'm going to hug my daughter.
I mean, this is exactly how my dad was. I think it was the times,
And look how Corey turned out. No, I'm kidding. Corey can't cry. Corey will not cry.
I will not cry in front of anyone else.
You, dude.
Myra loves to try to watch me cry and everything, and I see her like looking at me when it happens, but like I hate it. I fucking hate it. If that tear comes down, I suck it right back up.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to get Corey to get emotional, and I'm working on it.
And of course, this scene is kind of going to be redone a couple times, but I feel like this scene is like the anchor to kind of show that how good of a dad he is. Well, maybe not perfect with his son, but he's still a pretty good dad.
You're supposed to think he's a great dad, and it's fine. I'm just I'm splitting hairs.
I mean, you're not wrong though. It was the times.
Yep.
As Bill is driving on the highway to prison for his 4th session with Kohlberg, he's dictating to his assistant what he needs her to do into this portable tape recorder. Also, he's not wearing a seatbelt.
Nope. So he gets what he deserves.
I did note later he is wearing a seatbelt, though. I think he learned his lesson.
Yep.
As Bill is talking, he sees the car in front of him has a wonky back tire. He starts to trail off while talking when all of a sudden the tire shoots off, almost hitting Bill's car. He dodges the tire, and he and the other car come to a complete stop in the right lane. This was a bad idea because a semi-truck is driving full speed into that lane. Guys and gals, always pull over onto the shoulder.
You know what's really weird about this? The night I watched this movie, earlier that day, I was on the freeway, and I was with my son and another kid, and the kid was saying, "Did you know that semis will sometimes rear-end you on purpose so that you can get they can get insurance money or something?" Like, he was describing some sort of kind of conspiracy theory about big rigs and causing accidents, or like if a big rig, if it rear ends you and they're not held liable because of their brake systems or something like that. Anyways, we were literally just having that conversation, and like 2 hours later, I'm putting this movie on and I'm watching this scene unfold, and I'm like, did I just dodge a Final Destination bullet? The answer is yes.
Well, buddy, I actually dodged a Final Destination bullet with a semi-truck. I was driving to work back when I worked at Diamond Comics in Baltimore. So I was driving from Albany up to Baltimore. I had about a 45 minute to an hour commute every day. And you're going up, I'm driving up the highway, the freeway, about to get to the Baltimore Beltway, 695. But I'm driving up 70. And, it's like your typical 60-mile-an-hour road and everything. There's a semi-truck in front of me. I'm behind him. And one of the back tires, we're driving. All of a sudden, I see this white spray shoot out of it, And I was just like, that's interesting. Then all of a sudden, the entire fucking tire disintegrates in front of me and flies off and heads right at me in the driver's seat. I have to, quickly... I'm talking like Batman reflexes, drive onto the shoulder as I literally watch this entire tire, although it's unraveled, shoot right past my head. And those things, I think if that thing fucking hit the windshield, it would have shattered the windshield for sure. I don't know if I would have been fucking killed by it or not, but I'm telling you, I dodged that motherfucker by like an inch. And then he kept driving. I don't even think he fucking knew.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was fucking insane. But not as wild as what's about to happen here.
Right.
The semi honks, so the semi's barreling down on them. The semi honks and slams on its brakes, but there isn't enough room. I thought you were farting.
Oh, maybe I was.
Bill looks up into the rear view just as the truck slams into the back of him. The force of the impact launches Bill out the front window of his car and onto the roof of the car in front of him. At the same time, the car in front of him bends up in the middle, shooting Bill into the air again and onto the pavement below. So everything we see here, Zach, can we agree, is fucking amazing?
Yeah, the freeze frame shot of him looking in the rear view is my favorite part, actually, to be honest with you. That's like the moment that's the oh shit moment that he's having.
So apparently the stunt went wrong. The stuntman was not supposed to shoot up in the air like that. I don't think the car itself was supposed to maybe bend that way, or maybe it wasn't, but he just was not supposed to shoot up in the air like that. So during the stunt, and this is all according to Eric Red's interview on the Shout Factory Blu-ray, during the stunt, they had about 6 cameras all on it, right, watching it. After the stunt was done and they knew it went wrong, first things first, asked if the guy's okay, the stuntman's okay. Yeah, thumbs up, A-okay, no problem. Then next question is, did anyone fucking get it? None of them did. None of the camera operators of the other 6 guys got it because he wasn't supposed to shoot straight up. No one was prepared for that. They had to cut together other footage that, he had a couple stationary cameras set up around, inside the vehicles and stuff like that. And that's how we kind of you even see, the stuntman kind of shoots out of frame. You're like, oh, I won't actually see that because it wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
And I think it was originally just him supposed to land on the car like that, or maybe just land on the pavement. But what we're left with is an absolutely amazing stunt.
Yeah, totally agree. It's impressive.
And so famously, there's this a cut scene that takes place right after this, where Bill basically, wakes up on the ground, like on the pavement, covered in blood. And the way the camera's set up is that you see a hand sort of in the foreground. You don't know it's his. Camera pulls back. You see it's his severed arm. He kind of tries to go reach for it with his right stump. And that's when you sort of see that his arm is gone. And then another semi runs over his arm, destroying it. And that's kind of the only reason I sort of bring it up is because that's kind of illustrates why they don't just reattach his own arm.
Yeah, that makes sense. That cutscene's on the Blu-ray, isn't it?
It is, and the studio made him cut it because they thought that they were going to get an X rating for it. They actually submitted it to the MPAA. They still got it rated R with that scene. So he was like, okay, we're keeping it in. The studio was like, no, we're going to still cut it. And he said, like, he didn't approve of that decision now. And it also, at the time, he didn't approve of that decision. And it also taught him a lesson that if you're going to go against the studio is always going to win. But he says, looking at it now, he likes the theatrical cut better because it kind of also sets up this false expectation that there's going to be this super high gore count throughout the movie. Whereas it kind of lulls, and not in a bad way, but we don't really get it gory again until like the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
For an 88-minute movie, though, I mean, part of me is like, he's probably just saying that, but because
he's made his peace with it.
Yeah, he's made his peace with it. Bottom line is, they should have kept it in because it would have justified even more the necessity for him to have someone else's arm.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing to take away from it is that's why, and I didn't even think about it at the time, but I was like, okay, that makes sense. His arm got destroyed. That's why they couldn't just reattach it.
Right. I mean, and for this kind of movie, you put that scene in there.
Yeah, I agree. Cut to
So
Karen.
Fuck studios once again.
Yeah, always. Cut to Karen waiting at the hospital for any word on how her husband is doing. We see a large group of police officers holding shotguns walk by. There's a priest with them, too. Just then, Dr. Webb, Lindsay Duncan, walks up to Karen and tells her that Bill is stable and he's lucky to have survived the accident. He'll live, but they can't save his arm.
That's a perfect example right there. That makes it sound like he had an arm to be saved.
Good point. Yes. Yeah, good point.
So I wonder if they added that after the fact.
That's actually a good point because then that implies that they had the arm but they couldn't, save it. Because otherwise you'd say the arm was lost, right?
Wouldn't it be funny though, like if they did attach this? I mean, no, it's not funny. It's very dark. Like this piece of beef jerky to his arm, and yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. No, guys, it's gonna work. Look, it's gonna work. Fucking Flat Stanley, one side with his arms FlatStanley now. Sorry,
it's just like a sausage, just meat packed into a bag.
Just the casing. It's just the casing.
It's just the casing, yeah. Dr. Webb tells Karen to listen very carefully. I can give him a new arm. The distraught partner thinks Dr. Webb means a prosthetic arm. She says, we have a donor who suits your husband. We can give him a normal human arm as fully functional as the one he's lost. Dr. Webb says they need to perform the operation immediately to maximize success, but they need her signature before doing so. Karen asks if they can wait and ask Bill, but the doctor says there's no time. Every second counts. Karen reluctantly signs the paperwork. And I think Kim Delaney does an excellent job selling this scene.
She does, and the doctor does an excellent job of looking like an asshole because she shoves the pen in her hand like you don't have a choice. You're just going to do it. You're going to do it. And to be honest with you, like that does happen sometimes in situations.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. And, Eric Red said he made an active choice of wanting the quote-unquote Dr. Frankenstein of this movie to be a woman because while now it probably seems actually a bit cliche, at the time, it kind of wasn't.
Yeah, and I think he made the right call.
Agreed. I clicked my mouth,
Agreed. Me too. That's why I'll always repeat myself if you ever. Yeah.
Agreed. Cut to Bill. Just trying to give myself a clean intro. Fuck it, I'll just use what I got.
Agreed.
I hate you.
Sorry.
Cut to Bill getting wheeled into the operating room. He's missing his right arm at the shoulder socket and seems to be wide awake, but most likely in shock. Dude, it was gross when you could like see into his fucking hole. His hole. The hole that's not supposed to be there.
That's the only time you're going to hear Corey say, it's gross that I could see inside his hole.
Yeah, every other time. It's fucking awesome. We see the room from his perspective. There's an empty table for him, and on the other table, there's a man surrounded by those armed police officers from earlier. Dr. Webb walks up to Bill and tells him there's nothing to worry about. He looks over at the other patient but can't see their face. A priest is giving the man last rites. We also see Detective Sawchuck, Zakes Mokae, is present. Dr. Webb goes to the donor to begin the operation. On a TV monitor, we see a CGI representation of a human, and below the words, separation in progress. Bill watches in horror as she fires up the bone saw and starts to make the cut on what I originally assume is the arm. Just then, a nurse gives Bill anesthesia, and as he's fighting to stay awake, he sees the other person's head being removed from the body. I was just as shocked as Bill when I saw this. Once Dr. Webb takes the head away, Detective Sawchuck snaps his fingers, and he and the armed guards leave the room. Bill slowly fades into unconsciousness. So, dude, watching it, I just assumed she was going to cut off his arm, right? The patient's arm. But
right.
You actually see, when it says separation in progress on that like CGI body, you see the head come off, and my jaw literally hit the ground.
This is the moment where you start laughing. You have to laugh because it's so bonkers off the wall.
I mean, you would think you would kill. My God, like what like jury would like, approve this kind of like execution? Well, I guess that's the thing there. No one would, right? But then all the police officers are there. Like, how often does someone get executed by getting decapitated?
Never.
Yeah.
But it's starting the precedence, right? It's the beginning of what they're hoping will be the future.
Yeah.
Fun fact, those Bodyworks exhibits, if people are curious, almost all of those bodywork, where they use plastonics, where they put plastic in the body, those are all like Chinese prisoners who've given their lives, signed their life away. Okay.
Yeah, I thought, I think I knew that they were like convicts or prisoners or something like that. I didn't know if they were American. I assumed they were American actually, but it makes actually more sense.
I think
that
they're Chinese.
Yeah.
And then there's a cool German film. Is it called Autopsy? It came out maybe 20 years ago now, but the serial killer fills people's bodies with plastonics. So they freeze in that pose. It's kind of cool. And I think the woman from Run Lola Run, Franca Potente, is in it. So
okay, I love her. And it's kind of like that's a little bit of a play maybe on Waxworks, that movie.
Not
Waxworks. House of Wax.
House of Wax, yeah, and better than Waxworks.
Yes. No, I apologize. I fucking hate Waxworks. Sorry, David.
Sorry, David. And try to knock us off that hill like the bully in 8-Bit Christmas. Come have a piece of this delicious strawberry cake, because that ain't gonna happen, son.
David's like, you hate Waxworks. You're not doing Wes Craven next. Why am I friends with you?
Spoiler! Because you love us, David, and we love you too, David. David Irons. Go buy David Irons books, for crying out loud. And go buy Robert Ortiz books, for crying out loud too.
Yeah, we have very talented friends. My God.
Well, because we don't hang out with losers.
That's right. God damn it. Fuck the losers. But no, seriously, go Robert Ortiz. He has a couple he has his poetry. He put out a book of his poetry. And David is a very accomplished horror writer. I'm very, very impressed by all of our friends, the talent that all of our friends have.
Look at all this talent. And Diallo, we know you're listening, and of course we love you, and you're the top of the talent pool.
Oh God, I'm a fan of. I've always been a fan of Diallo. We know that. Come on, Diallo.
All y'all. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
If you want more of this, go sign up to Patreon, where where we glaze everyone's donut.
There you go. Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
In a world that has been completely divided for so long, two movie fans have decided to unite for the people and the betterment of mankind. One, an action movie buff. The other, a horror movie fanatic. Together, they will try to bridge the gap of both genres into one podcast with their battle cry, "Give me back my action and horror movies." Listen along as Charlie and Nate alternate each week talking about action and horror movies they cherish, mostly from the VHS era. Also, including some modern examples that felt like the movies they grew up with by answering the battle cry, "Give me back my action and horror movies." Available wherever you listen to podcasts. Look them up on Facebook and Instagram.
And now, back to the show. Fade in on Bill sitting up in bed post-surgery. His arm is in an elaborate sling, and he has a breathing tube in his mouth. All kinds of monitors and tubes are hooked up to him. He's awake, but can't talk or really move his head because his neck's in that brace. Dr. Webb and Karen slowly come into the frame on either side of him. Webb introduces herself and explains what happened and what they had to do. Jeff Fahey is doing some amazing eye acting in this scene. Karen asks if they can be alone, and when the doctor leaves, she comforts her husband, and she tells him it'll be okay, and she kind of brushes his hair. Dude, Jeff Fahey is awesome. I mean, every actor in this movie is fantastic, but Jeff Fahey is truly a standout. And the eye shit that he's doing here, like almost crying, like I knew exactly what he was thinking. I knew exactly what that character was thinking the entire time.
Corey knows what I'm thinking with my eyes as well sometimes.
I do. It's usually, though, your farts that give it away.
Pretty much.
Man, why the hell is Jeff Fahey not like an A-list movie actor, man?
I think he's a quirky dude.
Okay.
Our buddy Jonathan London interviewed him and kind of alluded to that. I think a lot of times these guys, are maybe not the easiest to work with.
Well, I mean, it's funny when you think, he has like 12 or 13 like siblings. Like, you kind of have to probably develop a personality that stands out. Otherwise, you kind of disappear into the crowd.
What is it, the fucking home in Caddyshack? Danny Noonan's family? Because doesn't Danny Noonan have like 12 siblings?
Something like that.
Where the dad's like, who are you?
Like, how do you keep track of all those kids?
I don't know, dude. Oh, Catholic people, stop having so many babies, for crying out loud.
Seriously.
I know so many Catholic people. I have 6 kids. Do you enjoy your life?
Yeah.
No, you don't, really. If you have that many kids, you don't enjoy your life, because you know what? Your whole life becomes about those kids. Just have one.
Everyone I know that's our age that has kids just has one now.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen would love to have more, but I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. We're good. She's like, are we? I'm like, yeah, we are.
There's a time jump, and Dr. Webb is cutting the bandages off Bill's arm. There are deep cuts and stitches down the length of it, and more patchwork skin by the shoulder.
Oofa.
Yeah, it's rough. The effects are really good here. Dr. Webb asks if he can move the arm. Bill looks down at his mangled appendage and concentrates. It barely moves, but that's good enough for Webb at this point. Dude, this scene disgusted me when I saw that arm.
Yeah, this is not one of those like, oh, gross in a cool way. There are a lot of moments in this where you're like, oh, this feels super painful. Ugh. And then it gets gross in a good way.
Yeah, yes. Another time jump, and Bill is in therapy with a nurse. His arm is still bandaged and in a metal brace, but looking better overall. He tries to lift a small hand weight, but it's very difficult. Bill keeps struggling as the nurse tells him he can do it. All of a sudden, his arm flies forward with ease, almost in like sort of a punching motion.
Yeah.
Bill looks down at it, then at the nurse, asking if she saw it, and she says she did, and she kind of looks concerned. And then we get a little montage of Bill doing different therapy workouts with his strength gaining over time.
Be funny if his arm was in that. You remember the first Pocket Hero action figures that came out that were like 3 inches big? It was like Batman, Superman, the Hulk, Spider-Man, and they all had the same pose. They had one arm that they're called Pocket Heroes. They made a Mr. Mixelplex too, actually. Pocket Heroes. It's a forgotten toy, I think, but they had one arm that looks like they're jerking themselves off. Basically, it's meant to come up and hold like something in their hand, But it totally, if you look up Pocket Heroes, they look like they're giving themselves a good old once over.
Oh yeah, yes, I see it here. I had to look them up. I think maybe Mego put them out.
I think Mego
possibly?
put them out. Yeah, Mego put them out.
They
were cool.
They look like I don't have an exact date, but they look like they're probably early 80s maybe.
Early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and I believe they were like some of the first smaller action figures.
Yeah, they're almost a little Super 70-ish, like kind of.
Yeah. But then like the capes were cool. They were like hard plastic and
it was in 79 and 80. That was the two series. Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple when I was a kid, and then sad story about that.
I've heard of them. You've talked about them, but I don't ever remember even seeing them. But I was born in 78, so that was still probably a little bit too early for me. You're like a year and a half, almost 2 years older than me. So.
I'm 76, but also my brother's 5 years older, so I would inherit a lot of his toys too.
Right. Yeah. And I think at that point, those would be too small. I would probably put it in my mouth or what. It's not good to have toys that small when you're 2, right?
Put it in your mouth? I love it. You're like, what? Put it in my mouth.
The first thing you think of is that going to go in your mouth?
Honestly, Bodie never did that. I was like, when is our kid going to rip up my vinyl records? Never. When is our kid going to like put toys that he's not supposed to put in his mouth? Never. Never did any of that stuff. Never. And I'm like, oh, okay. Either he's the exception to the rule or that's just a broad generalization.
I mean, I didn't trash my toys when I was a kid either.
No, I don't think kids, you see kids and doing all sorts of crazy shit and you're like, oh, kids do this. No. I don't know why we're getting on a kids tip right now, but anyways.
Kids say the darndest things.
They sure do. And then Billy's going to say, well, Bill's daughter is going to say something pretty soon to really piss him off. What are you looking at?
Bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's actually my favorite scene in the movie. One of my favorite scenes.
Cut to Bill packing up his clothes and family pictures into a small suitcase. He's finally ready to go home. Karen, Billy, and Samantha are there, and so is Dr. Webb. Bill says he can't find the words to thank her. She just sticks out her hand, and he shakes it with his new Frankenstein hand.
There's a cool shot of him zipping up his luggage bag, too, with his man. It's like a Seinfeld moment with his giant hand and a small hand. Yeah. By the way, this at this moment, or maybe it's coming up soon, reminded me of the eye segment in the Body Bags movie, John Carpenter's Body Bags movie, and this is so much better than that segment, I believe.
Yeah, that was a wild one, dude. That was a wild one.
Oh yeah. Mark Hamill is no Jeff Fahey.
Nope, not at all. But seriously though, Mark Hamill is no Jeff Fahey.
Nope. But probably nicer to work with. That's why he's doing so well.
There you go. As Bill and his family, with Dr. Webb, exit the hospital, they are greeted by a wall of reporters and news cameras. One of the reporters asks how it feels to have someone else's arm. Another asks if the operation will affect his sex life. That would have been me as a reporter.
Well, what's the one where the guy hammers back and he's like, how does it affect yours? Fuck you, or something like that. And I forget what movie that's from, but it reminded me of that moment. When the reporter asked that question.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him jerking off with his new Frankenstein arm, you know?
Well, that too, yeah.
Bill says, I really don't think you people should be talking to me. You should be pointing the cameras at Dr. Webb. She's going to be a Nobel Prize winner. Dr. Webb says she hopes that in a few years' time, the procedure which Bill Cruikshank underwent, will become commonplace. She then leads Bill and his family through the wave of reporters as if she were their bodyguard.
Yeah.
And
I know I'm gonna screw up your life.
Good one. Cut to the family back at Casa de Cruikshank. Bill is getting ready to show his kids his new arm. Mommy explained why I was away in the hospital, right? And she told you I got hurt, and well, they took care of me in the hospital, and I'm better now. And I just want to know if you have any questions. Billy and Samantha say they don't have any questions. He says he doesn't want them to be worried. He loves them, and he's still the same dad he was before. Now, I wrote dad. Jeff Fahey said daddy, and I hated that. It made me throw up a little bit in my mouth.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm like, here's his tough guy love to his son Billy.
Yeah, yep, of course. Because 1990.
Where kids still had mullets, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I always I never think of 90 as being like the 90s. To me, 90, 91, it still kind of has that 80s vibe and feel to it.
Just like 80, 81 still has a 70s vibe to it.
Exactly. I think like the look of a decade doesn't usually start until about the second or third year of that decade.
Agreed. Like Fast Times, what is that? Is that 82 or 83? I think it's 82. Fast Times. Anyways, yeah, I think Fast Times was the first movie to kick off, oh, this is an 80s movie.
Right. But it wasn't like 1980 though.
No, because you look
I
at...
still got some 70s vibes from some aesthetic of Fast Times as well.
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Samantha asks if they can see the arm. Karen tells them maybe later, but Bill says that they have to see it at some point.
Maybe at dinner time.
Yeah, come check this out, guys. Shows off his fucking sausage.
Are we having pork Are we having pork chops again for dinner, Dad? Yep.
And by the way, he's kind of got these the scars on top of his like hand. Kind of remind me of like Wolverine. It's like where his blades sort of come out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He rolls up his sleeve, and we see 2 long scars on his hand. I wrote that even like Wolverine's claws. And long scars up the length of his arm. It's gnarly, but also pretty cool looking. When Bill rotates his arm over, we see another long scar on his wrist and palm, but also a faint tattoo on the wrist. And I'm surprised that like Bill never like even inquired about this tattoo.
I think that's like a misstep with the writing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and as awesome as this movie is, the script isn't perfect because there are some things like that where it's like you would think in reality he would have asked about it, but it's got to play off later in the movie, and it's fun when it does play off. But if he already knew that, then the playoff wouldn't have worked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there's a couple things in the script where I'm like, ooh, I would not have done that. Well, we'll get to it later, though.
I was gonna say yes. Please, interject whenever that comes up. Samantha gets scared and buries her face in Karen's shoulder while Billy says it's sort of gross. Mommy, no, mommy.
No, Daddy's with his arm.
Bill says, come on, guys. I know it looks a little funny, but it's not how it looks. It's how it works, right? And it does work just as good as the old arm. Matter of fact, it works even better in some ways. Probably referring to jerking off because he had to take it for a spin at some point.
It's his right arm? Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it's his right arm, yeah. Unless he's because I'm right-handed and I use my right arm. I've never been able to use my left arm. Like, I tried and it just doesn't work that
You give yourself a stranger?
Well, that's when you sit on it and make your hand go numb.
Oh. See, folks, I don't know what that means, so...
Samantha says she still loves him and they hug. Bill then takes his son outside to throw the old football around. Cut to Bill and Billy throwing the football back and forth in the street because, that's what you did back in the 90s or 80s. Yep. Karen watches and smiles, and the movie ends and they all live happily ever after.
Look what we've done to each other. I don't know. I made that up.
And did you notice the slight snow in this scene as well?
Yeah, I love snow in movies.
Me too, buddy. One of the things that I liked about 8-Bit Christmas was that you could tell that they filmed someplace where there was real snow and it wasn't like fake and shit.
Real snow.
Just film in Toronto, guys. It's just real snow, man.
This is pure snow. Do you know what the street value is of this stuff?
I was waiting for you to say that. Cut to Bill and Karen in bed. They're looking at each other and she's rubbing his new arm. She touches the scars and tells him how much she missed him. I gotta say, so my stepdad growing up, he was a very hairy man, extremely hairy. But his body, as a kid, he got burned because he tipped over the fucking boiling water on the stove, you know? So he had these big chunks of like burned, scar tissue on his chest and everything. And it looks just like his fucking Bill's shoulder part in the movie, how it's kind of got that weird coloration to it and everything. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus, you're triggering memories of sleepaway camp.
Right? Yeah, when the guy gets the fucking giant scalded, dies, yeah. No, he
Jesus.
doesn't die, though, technically, does he? He just gets burned, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't die.
I love sleep. Why have we not? I'm waiting for you to bring Sleepaway Camp one of these days.
I know. I think I was gonna do it this past summer. I'm waiting for like summer camp.
Okay. We both love that movie. You and I both.
We're
love
doing
it. But
it.
Zach kind of called dibs on doing that one.
Paulette right now is probably like, "That's my movie. I'm doing that one." Like, hold on. Actually, go for it if you want to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I won't turn down Sleepaway Camp if anyone wants to do
never.
that. Yeah. So this is funny. Bill then uses his Frankenstein arm. Sorry. And this is funny. Bill then uses his Frankenstein arm to finger bang Karen.
No way.
Until she eventually gets on top of him and they do the dirty deed, aka make love.
No
I was like,
way.
If I was Karen, I'd be like, get that fucking hand out of me.
No way. I mean, I was waiting for her to suck the fingers too. I was like, nope, And she would have looked at the wrist at that point and been like, what is that? What does that mean? She would have looked at it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that is a glaring thing that I'm like, and they even show it like in that shot when he shows it to his kids. I'm like, you can see the tattoo. Like, is no one inquiring about this tattoo?
Oh God, when she does that, I'm just like, oh man, it's the equivalent of not washing your hands and having sex, like after being outside or whatever. Ugh, nope.
Yeah.
Think about what, I'm sure it was sterilized, but still.
You can't sterilize all those kills and death away.
Nope.
Clearly, that's the thesis of this movie.
She's getting finger banged by a serial killer.
Pretty much. The next day, Karen and the kids see Bill off to work like they did before. So kind of like, we see it again, kind of illustrated again. But now mom and dad are kissing super long and the kids giggle. And Bill clearly has like a newfound lust for life.
Yep.
Again, movie ends and everyone lives happily ever after.
Now that we've got each other.
Cut to Bill in college teaching his class of students. Now, 4 months ago, and then, so of course, this is nice because it gives you sort of a time reference now.
Yeah, that's cool.
We were discussing the psychological roots and well springs of human violence. To continue on that, what we have before us is a paradox, you see, because violence, when it's sanctioned by the state, is acceptable to us. For example, policemen defending our families and soldiers defending our country. We celebrate them as heroes. But this is not the case with the so-called freelance individual. Bill looks around at his students taking notes. He goes on. Because we regard individual acts of violence with repugnance and revulsion. What is it that makes a man, or a woman for that matter, this movie's too woke, who is normal in most respects, and he kind of trails off as flashes of meat and bone are kind of being torn and they sort of flash across his mind. Bill blinks and continues. Lose control of the restraints that make him a civilized being and do severe harm to others. He sees another flash of flesh and bone in his mind's eye, but he keeps his composure. Well, that's a mystery, and a mystery that you and I must explore to its very depths. Now, I like them. I like the little flashes here, but they don't really, they kind of continue it a little bit more, but it's not something that sticks with the movie for very long.
Yeah. It's just, it's like drips and drabs. It's not consistent. So that's another slight flaw to an otherwise enjoyable film.
But clearly, like Eric Red needed some kind of visual to show what he was Jeff Fahey was like. But I still don't get like what ripping bones and stuff is sort of illustrating. I mean, I get it. I do get it. But I like it later when we see more of him breaking the neck and stuff like that. I like that stuff.
Yeah, me too. But I get it. I mean, it's supposed to tease like he's going through just agonizing, weird pains.
The only thing maybe I would change about this, if I were to do it, is maybe he's looking out at his students and like he sees a girl and like he visualizes himself killing her and that kind of startles him. I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Or like a It Follows moment where he sees the ghosts of his victims.
That would be cool too, dude.
Ding,
Although
ding.
I feel like they did that with like one of those ghost movies with the eye. They did that in the VHS segment, I believe, where the person gets, I think, new eyes or something like that because they were blind, and then they can start seeing ghosts.
Yeah, yep, that was cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a cool concept. I like it regardless, and I think that something like that would have worked here as well. Like I think what we're both getting at is we would like for him to have seen something that was actually like he was still looking out into the world that he inhabited, but something was in it as well that was in his mind's eye.
Yeah, just tack on another minute, make it an 89-minute movie.
Right? Cut to the next morning, and Bill is shaving his face in the bathroom. You see this coming a mile away, what's going to happen.
Oh, I hate razor scenes. I hate razor scenes. I just do. I hate them.
This one's worse than Mac in Predator. Since he's right-handed, he's using the Frankenstein arm. Bill cuts his face and yells out in pain. When his daughter Samantha asks what happened, he yells at her, "What are you looking at?"
What are you looking at? He's so annoyed. It's so funny. It is hilarious.
It is. And Karen's kind of like, whoa, hold on. And she doesn't really chastise him here. She's going to chastise him big time later, but she doesn't really chastise him here. And she kind of helps him with his cut. But this is, we were talking earlier offline about how, some scenes maybe drag on a little bit. This scene, it's like, it cuts so abruptly. Like, she's just like, here, let me help you, and goes to grab something. And then the scene just like ends. And I do like how economical that is.
Yeah, me too. I feel like they don't spend enough time on her reactions to the things that happen, because you would want to think like, what the hell is going on with this guy who never would act this way? She's like annoyed with him, like he's like straight up asshole, versus going like, what is happening to you? It's more just like, what's wrong with you? Her reactions are a little more, they're less sympathetic and more annoyed.
I would have been okay with this being like a 95-minute movie and giving us a little bit more of their relationship.
Yeah, of her going like, Bill, something's going on with you. This is not right. Versus just like, what is wrong with you?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or him going like, oh my God, what did I just do? Versus carrying on the annoyed thing, which he's going to do later on too.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, we praise all the actors. I think any faults in this movie lie kind of in the script.
Yeah, no, I agree, because he acts perfectly. It's just more the dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as someone who transcribes some of the dialogue, it's a little wonky here and there. Back at the prison, Bill has another meeting with Ray Kohlberg. His tape recorder's on the table like before. "How's it going, Doc? Heard you've been on the TV. Heard you're a regular freak of science." Bill says he was lucky. Ray says he doesn't look very good. When Bill asks him to clarify, Ray says, "You look like shit, man. Maybe you got some kind of little demon inside of you these days. You been losing sleep lately?" Bill asks if looking like shit makes it easier for Ray to talk to him. The prisoner kind of agrees. Bill says that he wants Ray to trust him, then holds out his Frankenstein hand for the incarcerated man to grab. When they hold hands, Bill looks at the bottom of Ray's wrist and sees the same tattoo that his new arm has. It says Striker. Bill quickly rotates his own hand to reveal it, and Ray now sees it. The killer says, "They only give those out on death row, pal. You gotta be a stone killer to wear that shit." Ray rips his hand away from Bill's. "What kind of shrink are you, man?" Ray starts freaking out, saying he won't talk to him and tell him to get away from him. The scene ends kind of abruptly. Unfortunately, this is the last time we're going to see Paul Ben Victor, unfortunately.
Yeah, because he's getting his head cut off and his
Right.
body parts shipped out to Korea or something.
Right. All right. I didn't know if there was anything more to it.
Now that's it.
So the scene ends abruptly and cuts to Bill walking through a police station like a man on a mission, right towards the identification unit, where he asks a friend of his to run his prints. The officer takes his thumbprint, and that's it, and runs it through a scanner, then a database. It doesn't take very long to get a match. Charles Fletcher, a career criminal and stone killer that was executed for his crimes. Bill's friend kind of looks at him in disbelief. So here's another thing. All right, you're going to give this guy a killer's hand. Now he has 2 sets of fingerprints, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what if he ever legitimately gets in trouble with somebody? You know, they're not going to, technically, they might not know which fingerprints are his. But also, too, how easy it is for him now to just find out who this arm belongs to. I'm surprised that they didn't remove the fingerprints during the surgery.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's what they would do now, I think. It seems like scripts are a little bit smarter now that they would probably do that. And I also want to point out the fact that Fletcher looks an awful lot like Jeffrey Epstein.
He fucking does, dude.
I'm like, this is our second Jeffrey Epstein mention of the night.
He's got that like kind of melon-shaped head and like thick eyebrows and everything. Yeah,
with the
dude.
Gray hair and
Well, it's funny because I wasn't going with Jeffrey Epstein. I was seeing the white hair and the dark eyebrows. I was thinking of our friend and your neighbor Roy, but the Jeffrey Epstein thing works better. And there's no
Jeffrey
connection
Epstein
between Roy and Jeffrey Epstein.
Personally,
just so we're putting that out there.
Yeah, it's disturbing, and it makes you wonder all these questions. As now Fahey has the hand of a massacre man. Massacre man. I just made that up.
I loved it, and I also loved the face you made when you said it.
Massacre man.
That's good. Man, I can't even do it. I like that, though. Later that night, Bill is in bed with his wife. They're both asleep, but Bill is having a nightmare about the people Charles Fletcher killed. We see a woman getting her neck snapped and a cop getting killed. Bill wakes up in horror. A small time jump, and he's sitting on the edge of the bed smoking a cigarette. The 80s.
The 80s. Yeah, you could smoke a cig in bed.
And of course, we say the 80s because it was filmed probably in 1989 anyways, you know. But yeah, dude, that was like such, you know, even when I smoked cigarettes, I smoked in my dorm in college. And that taught me to never smoke inside. And I mean, I smoked for another like 10 plus years after college. I never once again smoked inside any place I lived.
It's disgusting.
It is, guys. But it looks cool as hell.
You know what else is disgusting is Bill's style in this movie. Mock turtlenecks. Sorry, never a fan. Never a fan of those. Never a fan of collarless button-up shirts like Montel Williams used to wear.
Yeah.
Both of those trends in the late 80s, early 90s, terrible with a capital terrible.
Or when you had, like, you wanted to have a turtleneck, but you were wearing a vest and you didn't want the turtleneck to be underneath. So it was just like this neck thing that came down.
The dickie. It's called a dickie. Yeah.
No, not a dickie, not something you tied, but it was actually, it would make it look like you're wearing a turtleneck, you know, but, you know, it was just covered and you just stuffed it under what else you were wearing. So, like, say you're wearing a t-shirt, it would, like, stick out right here, but it only went to, like, right here.
That's a dickie.
I thought the dickie you actually had to tie.
No. The dickie. No, that's an
ascot.
It's an ascot. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Zach was 100% right the first time. That's a dickie.
I was like, where the hell's the records room? Yeah. What's his face?
Rosen.
Cousin Eddie, another idiot, Randy Quaid. Cousin Eddie's wearing that in Poon's Vacation.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Good call. Yeah, ascot is the one that Fred wears, right, from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, and Mr. Furley from Three's Company.
Oh, I liked Furley, but I was always a Ropers kid. I love the Ropers.
I just want a T-shirt with Mr. Roper's face when like he has that grin on his face.
Yeah,
I want
a
giant face. Yeah, I just want to. Whenever Jack would make some sort of like, you know, effeminate joke or whatever, I want that face on a t-shirt.
I love the Ropers, man. I watched the Ropers show maybe occasionally, but I never really watched it. Just like I never watched Three's a Crowd or wasn't there another one that John Ritter was Three's the Crowd was the spinoff, right?
Three's a Crowd was the spinoff, and the Ropers too. I wonder, man, if we do some digging, I wonder if there's a third spinoff, and if there is, we'll bring it to TV Obscura.
We'll just do all of them, yeah. Because I mean, Yumi and Diallo were a huge Three's Companies fan growing up.
Yeah, but the style, the fashion for Bill Cruikshank in this is so bad. I'm just like, oh man. There is one sweater he's wearing which is kind of dope, but at the same time too, it looks like he has caution tape on his. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, that is not the Sho Kasugi sweater from Return of the Ninja.
Dude, just Sho Kasugi, man. He had the best sweater.
He sure did.
So he kind of tries to play it off, Karen asks, what's wrong? Because he's sitting on the edge of the bed, smoking a cigarette, staring off into space like a 1,000-yard stare, like he just came back from Vietnam.
Because he just found out his hand probably killed people in Vietnam that were not supposed to be killed.
There you go. Tour of duty.
Right.
He tries to play it off, but she knows something's wrong, so she presses the issue. I think there's something the matter with me. It's the arm. I think there's something wrong with it. I found out who it belongs to. And Karen asks who? A vicious killer. Someone who makes Kohlberg look like an altar boy. Karen looks at him and says, honey, you have the guy's arm. You don't have his personality. She can tell that didn't really help, so she kind of goes on. You know nothing about this guy, right? Except his rap sheet. You always say when you're confused, get more information. She suggests he finds out who the guy really was, and the differences between him and the killer will emerge. She always gives sage advice in this movie.
She does, and then she goes into the bathroom and brushes her crotch out with a peroxide and a metal brush.
Oh yeah, because it hasn't hit her. We don't actually see her having the realization that, like, wait a minute, you just finger blasted me last night with a killer's finger with a wait, what now? Rewind. Hold on. Cut to Bill talking to Dr. Webb. She says she chose not to tell him about Fletcher because it might impede his recovery. It's your arm now, not Charlie Fletcher's. Dr. Webb, you put a killer's arm onto my body without telling me. I now have a murderer's blood in my blood. It kind of reminds me when Kramer was keeping all of his blood in storage, and then Jerry got like nicked by the knife, and he had to have some of Kramer's blood in him. And he screams. You got a little bit of Kramer in you, buddy. It all comes back to Seinfeld. Webb can't believe a man with his psychiatric background can be saying these things. That arm can't do anything you don't want it to. Bill asks how she knows that. And Dr. Webb's had enough at this point. She says any physical problems he has with the arm, she and her team will be more than happy to help him with. But as for these other matters, she suggests talking to a psychiatrist. Bill sarcastically tells her, "Thank you for your time, Doc," then leaves the office. But not the hospital. Bill waits for Dr. Webb to leave her office, then follows her to the rehab room. There he sees Mark Draper, Peter Murnick, trying to walk on his two new legs. He has similar scars going down the length of him, like Bill has on his arms. As Webb and the nurse are watching Draper, Bill looks at Draper's file for the address and also the address of another person that had the same procedure done, a Remo Lacey.
Not Remo Williams.
I was waiting for you to say that.
You ask and ye shall receive.
Cut to Bill parking his car in a seedy part of town, almost like a warehouse district in LA, like sort of like how we covered in Vice Squad and whatnot.
Yeah.
But since this is Toronto, there's actually snow. Bill knocks on Lacey's door and is greeted by Brad Dourif. Lacey asks what he wants, and Bill says he wants to talk. What about? About your arm. I got the other one. Lacey says, "So like you want to arm wrestle or what?" and starts laughing. Bill says that arm used to belong to a killer. Lacey says, okay, you got my attention, and lets him in. So, Zach, is this another one of our favorite movie apartments that we've seen? I mean, up there.
No.
I don't know if it's up there with Jack Death's apartment in Trancers, or even, Lucinda Dickey's in Ninja 3 The Domination, but it's still a pretty cool apartment.
It's pretty cool, but it's a dirty artist apartment, and it looks unkept. There's probably dust all over the place.
It looks cold. It's there's like no heaters in there.
Yeah, and I have friends that have lived in lofts like that, and artist friends. And
me too.
I'm just like, you go over there and you're like, it's kind of cool to hang out, and the music's playing or whatever, and there's like a party, but then when it's all said and done, all you got at the end of the night is dirt and dust and cold.
Yeah. When I lived in downtown LA, I went to a few parties like that at places like that. And yeah, very cool and everything. But I was like, I don't know if I'd actually personally want to live here.
Yeah. We still got to get to my favorite, which is Wanted Dead or Alive, the Rutger Hauer movie. He's got that's one of my favorite lofty.
That's not the one where he's blind, right? No, that's Blind Fury.
Blind Fury, yeah. No, Wanted Dead or Alive is the one that I always would consider. What if Rutger Hauer played Frank Castle, the Punisher?
Oh, I think you've mentioned that to me before, and every time you say that, it always it piques my interest.
Can you imagine if he played the Punisher? Would have been badass, dude.
I mean, I love me some Rutger Hauer, dude.
Rutger Hauer as the Punisher. Mel Gibson should have played Wolverine. Played Wolverine.
Yes. I've always, as a kid, me and my friends always fan casted Mel Gibson's Wolverine, and I always wanted Sid Vicious, aka Psycho Sid, to be Sabretooth.
Oh, hands down, no doubt about
Triple
that.
H would have been a good one as well.
He would have, but then he was in that terrible Blade movie with Ryan Reynolds and
Wait, Triple H was in Blade 3?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. That movie sucked, so maybe that's why I don't remember it.
Yeah, he's in that. There's another. I think there's a couple wrestlers in that one. I forget.
Okay.
But anyways,
I just remember Ryan Reynolds' insane abs.
Yeah. That's why I don't like him.
I know. Inside the giant converted warehouse, we see that Lacey is an artist. He has a bunch of paintings he's working on around the place. They are beautifully done, but also very dark and morbid. As Bill is looking at the paintings, he's getting flashes of memories from them. Lacey says these paintings are the best work he's ever done. When Bill asks if he's a fan of Dr. Webb, Lacey says she's the most brilliant woman he's ever met. Bill looks around and says, "This is Charlie Fletcher." Lacey says, "Charlie who?" "The killer. He killed 20 people with his bare hands, with that hand that you're painting with." Lacey chuckles and says, "Yeah? Well, what do you do with your arm?"
By the way, those paintings look like Clive Barker's paintings.
Dude, I didn't put it in the notes, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because that was the very first fucking thing that I thought of. I go, that kind of looks like Clive Barker's style of painting.
Yeah.
Good call. I'm honestly, I did not expect you to sort of bring it up. I know you're a Clive Barker fan, but when I was younger, I was actually kind of really into his art and everything. I've never heard you ever talk about it, so I didn't even think you would even put that together.
I met him at Dark Delicacies when he did a book signing for my brother has his book. My brother came down here. This is funny.
With the neck brace, right?
With the neck brace on, yeah, like we're going to get to in a little while, because he broke his neck. And we met Clive Barker, who's signing his books there. I think Eric got a book. I just got a poster signed. And sweet guy, super sweet. Nothing but positive things to say about Clive Barker, who I think was suffering because didn't he have throat cancer or something like that? Or,
yeah, I think something. Yeah,
something where that caused him to have a really raspy voice or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, dude, growing up, man, I was a big I didn't read a lot of Clive Barker books, but I loved Clive Barker movies, and I loved his art. So I kind of was always looking for his art. So the first thing I thought of, I was like, oh, that kind of looks like Clive Barker's style here.
Yeah, I read his books of Blood series. I read a lot of his books. The Cabal book is so good, and which is obviously what Nightbreed's based on, and
that's the only one I still have. And I loved it. But it also has the Lord of Illusions short story in it as well.
Right. I mean, his writing is great. It's great.
It really is. Bill looks around and asks, don't you ever wonder where these images come from? If maybe they come from him? Lacey blows it off and says they just come to him. He snatches them out of the air. Lacey says that he wants to show Bill something and then grabs his old paintings. They are generic trash, and Lacey knows it. I was a hack. I can say that now. Dumb Cape Cod landscapes, wall fillers for banks, hotels. That was the best I could do. Nobody had 2 seconds of their precious fucking time for my serious work. I get this arm, and hey, I make $250,000 in the first 3 weeks. My dealer's phone never stops ringing. The New York fucking Times is talking about my searing original talent. I got no complaints. The world is my fucking oyster.
Oh!
Bill says these paintings aren't Lacey's pictures. They're Charlie Fletcher's pictures. This is what he saw when he killed people. Bill knows what he's talking about because he's seen these pictures in his mind. Lacey dismisses Bill and tells him that he's too busy for all this. The inspiration is on the flow. The bluebird is on the wing, and he's got to catch it. Lacey walks over to his door and opens it for Bill to leave. Nice talking to you. Dude, Brad Dourif is awesome.
He's great. He's only in this for, 3 scenes?
Yeah.
But he chews every moment. He's an Academy Award nominated actor. Not that that actually means anything, but he's an amazing actor.
And according to Eric Red, all he kind of did with Brad Dourif was they did the blocking, meaning where to stand, where the lights are, that kind of stuff. He's everything else was him, and I didn't even want to fucking stop him. Just let him do his thing.
Right.
And that right there is a great director.
Right.
Back in Bill's office, he's writing in his journal. It's childish of me, I know, but I'm somewhat disturbed to learn that I'm not the only beneficiary of Dr. Webb's experiments. I must find out if other experimental subjects are having the same turbulent shifts in mood and activity that I've been experiencing. Does this arm really have a soul of its own? These questions are monstrous and fantastic. But what has happened since the accident? Is it not fantastic? As he's writing, Karen walks in to tell him that they're late for a faculty dinner party, but it startles him and he yells at her for it. She tells him to piss off. He yells back at her, asking what she's so angry about. Karen says, last night you scared the shit out of me about the guy who had your arm. Today you bury yourself in here with your books. Bill sarcastically and aggressively apologizes and says he talked to Dr. Webb and everything is perfect. Karen asks why he didn't tell her he went to see Dr. Webb, and Bill says, why should I? Everything's great, okay? Everything's perfect. A rift is clearly building between them.
And you know what else is disturbing is how much writing he does that probably people don't even do anymore.
I know. Keeping a journal like that?
Yeah. I know people still do it, but it's just not commonplace anymore.
No, it's most assuredly not.
And this was a scene too where I'm they're bickering like that back and forth. It feels a little lazy because, if she could answer what the hell's wrong with you? What's going on? This isn't you kind of. All she needed to say is this isn't you, This
is the extra 5 or 6 minutes that I would like to add on to the movie and have them have a more realistic discussion versus just her always being annoyed by him.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page with what we like about this movie and where it might possibly be lacking, but not to the detriment of the whole.
No, I mean, that doesn't make you not like the movie, but we call it out. I think that's a really good point of context, that just because we're pointing out some of the flaws doesn't take away how much we love it. And I think you can call out flaws on something and still love said thing.
Guyver!
Like 90s cartoons.
There you go. Well, buddy, you got no flaws.
Aw, I got one. I got never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Just leave it, yeah. Cut to Bill talking to Detective Shawchuck about Charlie Fletcher. He took 5 of my men. Good ones. I took 'em in. The judge gave him the chair. Then it kind of gets hazy. There's this lady doctor who wants to experiment grafting techniques on convicts. She's up to her neck in politics. Charlie's got no family, no lawyer, no money. He's nobody. She pulls the right strings and cha-cha-cha, you've got his arm. Bill looks down. Shawchuck goes on. I was in the operating room with 8 armed officers when they sawed his head off. End of story.
This is a moment where I'm like, Sawchuck? They clearly wrote this guy they wrote this character for a hardened New York cop. And Zakes doesn't embody
South
that.
African, yeah.
Yeah, I love him anyways.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's actually a perfect example of you can cast somebody not necessarily the type and it working out really well.
Right, casting the right actor for the role, but not maybe for the name or what you thought in your head.
Yeah, and this is also not a time when we were casting people based on like a status quo or, having equal opportunity. And I'm not saying one way or another what's good or bad. This was a time when we didn't do that. And so the fact that he's casting Zakes in this role is surprising. I don't think you would typically see an actor like this in this role in another genre horror film at this time.
No, they would have made him the voodoo doctor,
Yeah, it would have been more obvious. Like,
yeah.
I haven't seen this since I was working in Haiti or whatever, or something. Yeah. Or they would have had Andy Garcia playing the cop, which is fine too. They're both fine, but I think it's cool what they did.
Agreed. But I mean, dude, watching this after like falling in love with Dust Devil, in my adult age and everything, and go listen to the Richard Stanley interview. Yeah. I want more Zakes in my life, dude. I love him so much. He's fucking amazing.
David Irons is listening to us right now going,
you can have him in your life.
Go and cover Wes Craven for our tour de force. What's wrong with the two of you? Buggers.
Bugger. Fucking piss off, mate.
Piss off, mate. Come on now. Zach, you're terrible at this accent because you do 3 different British accents at once.
You are pretty bad, but it's just as bad as David doing his American or his Italian accent being an American accent.
What are you talking about?
I love David's American accent. It's great.
And David, you love my terrible British accent.
I love your terrible British accent.
I know you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits 2 challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a Surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.
And now, back to the show. Cut to Bill coming home. As he's calling out for his family, Billy comes running from the kitchen and playfully tackles his dad. They wrestle, but when the boy jumps off the couch and accidentally hurts Bill, the older man hits him in the face in anger. Billy goes running to his mom crying with a bloody lip. Karen runs over to Bill and hits him and tells him to never touch her child again like that. Samantha asks, "What's wrong with Daddy?" And Billy looks down at his hand in horror. Dude, when I saw this scene, I was like, ooh, this one's gonna hurt Zach, I think.
Oh, I mean, it's like he pelts that kid.
He does. And it's all like one take. This entire scene's one take. So that was like the actor Jeff Fahey and the kid, they had to like make sure that like he didn't actually fucking hit him, but it looks like he fucking hit him,
It does. And then the kid's reaction afterwards is kind of like, Dad, you hit me, versus like crying like, my dad just hit me. It's more, see, this is where I go like, this is why this kid, when he grows older, is not, he's going to have so many issues because his dad didn't love him the way he was supposed to.
Remember in The Believers when the kid goes running into traffic and
oh God, there's another dad.
Yeah.
Weird Cam,
Hey,
are you?
Cam? Are we on to
Cam.
something, Cam?
Cam's next pick involves kind of like a father-son.
Interesting.
Sort of. Not really, but sort of.
I like how podcasting after dark has become a therapy session for people.
Cam's gonna.
We never
Cam's
planned
gonna,
that.
No, Cam's gonna join us on wrap up, and he's gonna be like, "You hit the nail on the head, guys. The nail on the head." And David's like, "But why haven't you chosen Wes Craven yet? Crikey!"
Crikey, mate. In David's defense, I've actually never heard him say crikey ever.
No, because that's Australian.
Oh, that's
that was a joke. That was a joke.
Your accent's a joke.
It is. David's like, throw another shrimp on the barbie.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Sorry, he pelts his kid, and it's really messed up.
It's really fucking messed up. I like the fact that all of our jokes are at probably one of the darkest scenes in the movie. It's how we deal with things, guys. Cut to Bill watching Mark Draper play basketball at a gym with his friends. You can tell Mark is still a little wobbly on his new legs, but he eventually gets the ball and runs for a slam dunk. I guess Charlie had ups, huh?
I mean, Charlie's got everything, apparently.
Yeah, superhuman strength,
He
superhuman
can paint.
jumping ability. Yeah, can paint.
He can finger bang his wife.
Finger bang to climax.
Oh, God.
He's got moves, baby. Charlie's got moves. Now we cut to Mark driving home in his sweet muscle car while Bill follows behind him. Yeah, this one I was like, notice Bill is wearing a seatbelt now. He's learned his lesson.
Yep.
While they were stopped at a red light, all of a sudden Mark's leg punches the gas and the car goes flying through traffic and down the street. He skids to a stop in front of a parked car. Mark screams, "What the fuck?" as Bill walks up to his window and asks if he's all right. Mark says he's okay, and Bill asks what happened. Mark says it was his leg, and Bill asks what's wrong with it. Mark says it just kind of stomped on the gas and he couldn't get it to break. That sounds pretty nuts, huh? Bill says it doesn't sound nuts at all, and he introduces himself. "My name is Bill Cruikshank. I know this sounds weird, but I got my arm from the same place you got your legs." They shake hands, and Bill asks if they can talk. He says he's been having some side effects from the procedure, and he needs to talk to somebody who's been through the same operation. His arm has been doing things on its own. Bill tells Mark he thinks something's wrong. Mark says it's probably just rehabilitation. It takes a while for things to come back. Mark thinks that's just what happened with his legs. He's having trouble with his coordination. Bill says he saw Mark playing basketball earlier. He looked pretty coordinated then. I like how Mark's like, "Hey, I can walk. I had an accident 3 years ago at work. It crushed both my legs. Put me in a fucking wheelchair. Lose your legs sometime. I'm telling you. All your other problems shrink to nothing in comparison." Bill is shocked. He doesn't seem to understand why no one wants to, ask questions about the operation. "What are you talking about, ask questions? Look, all I want to do is get good with these babies and get on with my life. I suggest you do the same." Bill apologizes and hands Mark his card. Mark says thanks for stopping and rolls up the window. And I love that it's snowing in this scene too. I love Mark. Me personally, Mark's probably my favorite side character in the movie. And I feel like they have kind of a rapport sort of right away. They seem to sort of like each other. But I've also noticed when I was breaking this movie down, they do a lot of long takes. There's not there's a lot of cutting in the action, but in the dialogue and interactions with people, Eric Red kind of just leaves the camera on and people just sort of talk,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I like his character too. It's funny because the whole time, this was the moment where I'm like, is he a real basketball player? Because
he's interesting looking, right?
Yeah, he is. But I love this scene because it's shocking, and then his legs want to live on the edge, basically, Would have been really funny if John Wayne Bobbitt at the end of this movie shows up and he's like, hey guys, you know why I'm here too? And they're looking at him like, why? And
did you ever watch that porno that he did after he got his, with his dick and everything with his fucking Frankenstein cock?
I mean, I remember when it was being rented out at Video Man.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Big Wolf too. Yeah,
it came out at the same time that Scotty Schwartz did one also, and the guy who sticks his tongue on the pole, right?
Yep.
From Christmas Story. Yeah, that was a weird. I'm like, ooh, this is ugh. I mean,
because all that was post. Wasn't all that post Pam and Tommy? Like that's when
it's before.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really you guys. No one wants to see that.
No,
it's gross.
No one. No. I remember though the Pam and Tommy one, dude. That was such a fucking huge deal.
It was, and then there was the Vince and Janine one.
Yeah.
And then Bret Michaels came out.
None of them really fucking hit like the Pam and Tommy Lee one that did.
No. Like people who don't know, people who only know it from the FX TV show that came out. It was a cultural phenomenon. Like that changed the game. Like unfortunately, kids who didn't know anything about what porn was knew what it was because these were like, kind of household names from Baywatch and Motley Crue.
We don't talk about Motley Crue too much, but growing up, I fucking loved them.
Me too.
Were you a big Motley Crue fan?
Oh yeah, I love I love more of their early stuff like Shout at the Devil and Too Fast for Love.
Kickstart My Heart.
That was Theater of Pain, and that I love that album too. And then Dr. Feelgood came out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love Motley Crue. I used to, yeah, I've seen them a couple times. Back in 1987.
I saw them once in L.A., so I guess it was when I lived out in L.A., so it was probably the last, I mean, they were all there. Mick Mars, was there and everything, but I think it might have been the last time Mick was with them.
Wow, yeah. I mean, they're amazing. They're amazing. Yeah, Kickstart My Heart's Too Fast for Love, and so much good stuff. Girls is a great album too. And anyways,
they were like sort of my favorite hair metal bands. Like I like songs from other people like Skid Row, and I had like some albums here and there. But Motley Crue and Def Leppard were probably my two favorite like hair metal bands from the 80s.
What about Tesla?
Fuck you.
Love is all around you.
I mean, that's a great song. I do like that song.
That's a great song, dude. Love is knocking outside your door. Okay, never mind. Sorry, back to legs.
Back to legs, McGee.
So really quickly, Bodie, when he started getting into He-Man and all the figures, and we were getting all the Four Horsemen figures, or the Super 7. No, sorry, Mattel. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get it.
And
Zach's having a stroke right now.
He got these legs from Mermista, and he loved the legs, like because Mermista came with the fishtail, and also came with a set of human legs so she could walk around, and he would just play with the legs all the time. And I'm like, who's that character? He goes, Legs.
It's Legs.
And I go, what's up, Legs? What's up,
I
Legs?
love it. The mind of a child is so amazing. What's that character called? Legs. It's called Legs. Dad, are you crazy?
Doy.
Oh, Bodie, you're the best. Cut to Bill and Karen in bed, not saying anything to each other. He touches her shoulder, but she moves away from him.
Half our audience just went, been there, done that.
I mean, I feel like we've all been there, done that.
At least once in our lives, guys.
Yep.
Everyone.
Fade to them sleeping, and we see Bill is having a nightmare again. He rolls over and puts his Frankenstein arm on Karen, and it slowly begins choking her.
Yeah, because,
because it's alive. She tries to wake him up by slapping him, but it doesn't work. She eventually gets off the bed and out of his death grip as Bill slowly wakes up and realizes what happened. She tells him to stay away from her as he looks at her in shock. Now, I gotta say, Zach, that's kind of like something that doesn't... Like this one scene, the arm kind of has a mind of its own. And I get it. You could say, okay, it's because Bill was asleep. I kind of wish maybe we'd seen one or two more scenes like this just to kind of, because it's kind of like this is the only time where it seems that like the arm has a mind of its own is just in this one scene, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the kid slapping scene is one, and the face cutting. you
Yeah.
know, him because he wants slashing.
But
I get,
it never becomes that movie where he's like, holding his arm as it's trying to do something. It never becomes Idle Hands.
It never becomes The Hand, directed by Oliver Stone, with Michael Caine, I believe. Did you ever see that one?
No. I have seen Idle Hands, though, and that movie's awesome.
Idle Hands is great, but you should see The Hand. It's directed by Oliver Stone. I think it's his first movie he ever did.
I've seen The Band of the Hand.
Yeah, that's a great one, too, if we cover Michael Mann for our tour de force down the road.
Okay, so The Hand, though, is good. Is it about somebody who, like, loses control of their hand?
Yeah, I think it's like The Hand, yeah. There's a scene where it, like, gets chopped off, and anyways.
So, like, Evil Dead, basically?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Oh, damn it, Lee Germani. It's all
Damn
your
it, Lee.
fault. We are shouting out so many people in this episode.
That's good. That's good. We love our fans and our friends. And our friend fans, they're all the same, guys.
They're all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Only the names have changed. Sorry. It's karaoke here at Podcasting After Dark.
It always is. I think about a third of our episodes are very sing-songy.
Yep. And Cam's like, God, I thought you guys got that over with Believer.
Believer.
Who's that? Imagine Dragons? They suck. They
I-
don't suck. I just don't like them.
Okay. Good. That's a good call. You're right. They don't suck, but I don't like them.
I think that's what everyone should do moving forward. If you don't like something, you say, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
And leave it at that.
You know what? As Bodhi would say, they're fine.
It's fine. They're fine.
So we see Bill now fully dressed. He takes his daughter Samantha out of her bed and carries her into her brother's room. Once there, he wakes up Billy and tells them both that he's going away for a little while and that he loves them. After that, Bill walks to... First off, I'm surprised that Karen wouldn't be watching him talk to the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no way. No,
Yeah.
she would have... There's no way after doing that.
This entire movie, the most unbelievable part of this entire movie is that Karen wasn't standing over him as he was talking. Like, the fact that she let him talk to the kids alone is the most unbelievable part of the movie.
Right. I agree.
After that, Bill walks to his car in silence while Karen and the kids watch. And this is like, so you know how everything has to be done in threes? You know, so you get two of these exiting the house things. Both of them are positive. Now, this is the one that's like negative. But it's nice that we have those other positives because then it gives us a juxtaposition to see how bad this is and how he looks back. And, you know, Jeff Fahey does great, like, almost crying eyes and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Would have been great if they cued like some saxophone in this moment.
But I mean, that kind of illustrates, like, yeah, that's funny. We like that. That's a good. But the music in this movie is never like on the nose like that. The music in this movie is outstanding.
Yeah, no, the music is great.
I'm glad you called out the composer because we kind of glossed over that in the opening.
Yeah, don't ask me to repeat his name, but
yeah, no. Cut to Bill talking to Dr. Webb in her office. He says he wants the arm off. She asks if he's insane. Bill says he has serious problems. He hit his kid and tried to strangle his wife. Plus, he has nightmares every night. Bill tries pleading with the doctor. Look, the arm's fine, all right? I just don't want it. Give me a hook or something.
Give me a hook or something. It's so funny. It's
it would
so
be like
funny.
right here. The hook would be like right there.
Yeah, it would be like the G.I. Joe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dr. Webb looks at him in the eyes and says, do you realize what I and my team have accomplished with that arm of yours? Don't you realize that if a gun were put to my head, I wouldn't jeopardize the accomplishments that your surgery represents? Can't you see this arm is killing me? Dr. Webb, unfazed, she says, I'm sorry to put this so bluntly, Bill, but the pain you're in just isn't that important when I balance it against the significance of the experiment. I'll see you put in a mental institution before I let you undo what I've done. Bill leans in close and says, let me be blunt, doctor. Why don't you go fuck yourself? I love it when you tell someone to their face to go fuck themselves.
This scene is so great.
It is.
It's one of the best scenes of the movie because he just is unhinged at this point.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and unhinged Jeff Fahey is awesome.
Yeah. Triggered.
She tells Bill to get out of her office, and he screams that he wants his arm off.
I want his arm off!
Cut to Bill by himself in a lonely motel room. We hear a voiceover from his wife, Karen, talking about how she wishes she never signed the release form. That's kind of weird because, like, where did that voiceover come from and why was it inserted right here?
Yeah, I had to rewind this scene a couple times because I'm like, where is this coming from? This is not a day and age of a speakerphone kind of thing.
I thought it was on maybe the voice machine, the answer machine or something, but it's not. It's just maybe it's in his head, but
it's supposed to be in his head probably.
Yeah, I think you're right. Bill sits at a desk in the room and writes in the journal that he's been keeping. The corollary of violence is loneliness. Humanity shrinks from the violent man as if he were a carrier of disease. Cut off from my family, I'm terrified of what I'm becoming. I need someone to share my sense of isolation with. And yes, a growing sense of horror. I am alone and afraid. Cut to a bar, and Bill is drinking with Lacey and Draper, his new super friends. I love that they become friends. And if another thing that I wouldn't mind tacking more time onto is seeing their friendship.
Yeah, I love it. It reminded me of an Adventure Time when Magic Man takes all these different aliens or people or whatever and turns them into body parts. And they all kind of band together to create one kind of person out of their parts.
That's awesome.
Like he turns one guy into a foot, he turns another guy into a eyeball or something like that. Anyways.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm like, they're all homies now. They're all weird friends in some way.
And I'll get to it, but I like how they kind of cheers to, Charlie Fletcher for their benefactor.
I want to talk about that too.
Okay, so yeah, we'll get there. Bill thanks them for showing up and tells them every time he looks at his hand, he keeps thinking about how many people it killed. Mark says he's had problems with his legs too, but he'd rather keep them. It's just pieces of the guy we got, not him. Bill isn't so sure. He isn't sure where evil lives. The soul, the mind, or the flesh. Lacey seems amused by all this and tells Bill to lay off the metaphysical speculation. Bill asks them why he's having these problems and not them. Why wasn't his transplant a success like theirs was? Lacey tells him to stop fighting it. Go with the flow. Listen to what your arm is saying to you. And I like how maybe that's why they're not having nightmares, because they've accepted it. They've accepted their body parts.
Okay, yeah, I can buy that.
Bill asks, what is his arm saying? Lacey says, right now it's saying, have another drink, old buddy. Mark says that's just what his legs are saying too. Lacey says he'd like to propose a toast to their benefactor, Charlie, and they all take a shot.
Yeah, you're cheersing a guy who's killed 20 people.
But they now can walk, and it's kind of like gallows humor, and I enjoy that.
I know, I get it, but I'm like, you're cheersing the guy that just dissolved your family, bruh.
Yeah, I know.
I get
Lacey.
But...
I get Lacey saying that, but I don't get Bill cheersing as well. Do you know what I mean?
I would have liked to have, yeah, because Bill's response should have been,
like, cheers
fuck
to
you,
science.
Charlie.
Oh, okay, fuck you, Charlie.
Yeah, and then just done that.
Yeah.
And then they all go, fuck you, Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then a guy goes, you talking to me? No.
he's like wearing a shirt that says, I'm Charlie. But this is interesting. I didn't notice this until Zach pointed it out to me a couple days ago. Just then, a drunk Major Matthew Hawk Masterson from Captain Power, and a Baltimore Orioles cap, by the way, at the end of the bar says, hey, asshole, I know you. I've seen you on the TV. Hawk says that he wants to see the hand. I'm just going to call him Hawk, by the way. And
yeah,
guys and gals, go listen to our Captain Power TV Obscura episode.
Oh, we love us some Captain Power.
We really do. Bill says it's just a hand. Lacey laughs and asks if Hawk wants to see his too. They're a matching pair. Hawk gets drunkenly frustrated and says he wants to see the one from the TV. But Bill says he isn't a circus attraction. Hawk says, you're some kind of fucking freak. Then he grabs his wrist. Bill wrenches his wrist free, and in one motion, he grabs the beer bottle and smashes it over Hawk's head. This starts a bar fight, and the bartender calls the police. Probably my other problem I have with this movie. I'll tell you in a second. Bill single-handedly beats down a gang of bikers one by one as Lacey and Mark watch in astonishment. Just then, detectives saw Chuck, and 6 officers rush in. They get there in 30 seconds. And why is a detective there? And why is a detective there with 6 cops? They just would have rolled up with like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But as they're there, Mark tries to stop Bill, but Cruikshank hits him in the face like he did with his son. But then Mark uses his leg to karate kick Bill into Sawchuck's arms.
It's a good kick, too.
It was a great kick. The detective subdues Bill. And that's how it sort of ends.
Yeah, there's no real follow-up to this moment. It's just like they just all let him go, I suppose, because they're white. And
well, and here's the thing, because the next scene is going to be like we're going to be following Mark, and it's clearly not like later that night. So there's clearly some kind of time jump, you know what I mean? Because like in the next scene, Mark is wearing like sweatpants, so I think it's at least the next day. But you know, it goes from being nighttime, then the time jump is to another nighttime. So when I first watched it, I was like, oh, is that just later? Is this when Mark is leaving the bar? And I was like, I don't think so. I think this is when Mark. I think there's like a day or two has passed.
Yeah, it feels like it.
So Mark is walking to his apartment complex carrying a bag of groceries. He hears a sound and looks back but sees nothing. As he's walking up the stairs, his legs start acting funny. Mark falls, but he eventually makes it to his apartment, clearly in pain. Once inside, he sits down and tries to call Bill, but gets his answer machine. I love this. This is Bill Cruikshank in exile. Current location, the Hillcrest Hotel. Well, enough about me. How are you doing? Leave a message at the beep and tell me all about it. I like how he calls himself in exile.
It's hilarious. I love it. It's a little nod at humor. And also, is this the moment when we see the inside of Mark's apartment? Or is this coming up? I think it's when Bill goes to his apartment and sees that Fresh Force poster.
Yeah. So bring that up in a second. Well,
okay.
Bring it up now, because, I mean, we'll be here in a second. So
yeah,
what did you see in there?
Well, no. So, in just a moment, Bill will be going to Mark's apartment. And he walks into the apartment and there's a poster on the wall. It says like Fresh Force. And it looks like almost like an airborne type poster, it's kind of cool looking. And I'm like, I bet you Fresh Force is something. It's not just some generic thing they made up for this movie. It's like a hip hop group from the late 80s, early 90s, like a DJ hip hop kind of CNC Music Factory type thing. If you type in Fresh Force, the fresh-force.net is the only place where you can hear this music. It's totally late 80s, early 90s, hip hop club music, but it's kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, someone was a Fresh Force fan. Because they put that on there.
So yeah, someone in the art department or set design or something. That's awesome, dude.
Eric Red's grooving to,
I know you're not an authority on them, but do you know if maybe they're from Toronto?
No, I don't think they are, but I will tell you really quick. This was what stood out to me when I went on their website, because it says in 1990, they're from Chicago.
Okay.
Sorry. They signed they're signed to an independent label in Chicago in 1990. One of their songs was called Body House. Body House.
Interesting. Maybe
after a 30-year hiatus, Madison hip-hop legends Fresh Force set to headline Mad Lit. I don't know, Madison, Wisconsin. The group formed in 1984 in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh my God.
It was a rap group. Wow.
And you know what's funny? When you sent me all that and everything, and then when I broke it down this time and I was watching it, I didn't even see that poster again. Like, I didn't see it the second time. So I'm glad you're calling it out. I'm sure Cam probably noticed it, but that's some weird, wild stuff you got going on, buddy.
Yeah, apparently they played with artists such as Speech from Arrested Development, Lisa and the Cult Jam,
Oh, I know.
Glenn Medeiros had a great song in High Wire in the Karate Kid 3.
Okay.
EPMD. Anyways, yeah. Who
Okay.
Runs This Mother was the name of another song Who Runs This Mother and Jackmaster 6. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
Jackmaster 6. That reminds me of something. That reminds me of what...
That's a compilation album there.
I know, but that reminds me of something that Bud Bundy would have like referred to himself as. You remember, right?
Yeah.
Remember, because she would always like say like Gas Passer B or something.
Jackmaster is an amazing name. Leisure Suit Larry comes to mind for some reason too.
Yeah, that too.
Jackmaster.
Well, Mark leaves. Thank you for all that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Question mark? Mark leaves a message saying he's calling to see what's going on with him. So that's why, like, his message is kind of like if they just had a bar fight, it would. This is what kind of tells me that it was probably a few days later. So he's leaving a message like, "What's going on with you?" You know, he's like, and you can tell he's in distress. He says he's at home, but he's cut off by the door being kicked in. Bill picks up the phone and hears Mark being attacked. Bill runs out to his car and drives to Mark's place.
Well, I want to pause you really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I want to roll it back a little bit because when Mark goes to his apartment, he's in agonizing pain going up the stairs, like he's got to take a massive shit, like he's got diarrhea. We've all been there.
Yes,
and,
yes, we have.
And where you're like, oh God, I'm almost there.
Am I gonna make it? Why does your body know that you're almost there? It's like, why can't you just wait a few more seconds? You know?
Why is that? And then you just explode in the toilet. But
Yeah.
anyways, anyways, when you know, it's kind of like the legs are like sensing they're sensing the impending doom.
I took it as the same thing. Like the legs knew that Charlie was close by, but spoiler, I didn't see the whole Charlie thing coming. We'll get there when we get there.
Sup, legs?
So Bill runs to his car and drives to Mark's place. Once he gets there, he sees the doors broken down. The apartment is messed up, and then he finds Mark's dead body lying on his bed, sans his two legs. They've been ripped off.
Oof.
It's gross because you can see in those stumps too.
Oof. Big old holes in there.
Oh God. By the way,
remember that album? What was it? Twisted Sister, where Dee Snider's holding like the giant milk bone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like that big nub.
You said hole and then holes, and then you went to remember the album, and I thought you were going to be like, remember that album by Hole.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Well, so that was Courtney Love's band, right? Hole.
It was.
Yeah.
Jackmaster 6.
Gas Passer B. That was always my favorite when Kelly would because you'd always spin it, you know, because I think actually I don't remember what Bud's actual rap name was. I just remember all of Kelly's like, you know, spin on it, like Gas Passer B and shit like that.
Because he did.
You know?
He had a rap album that came out.
I know.
God, all these guys like Joey Lawrence and Brian Austin Green.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And,
all these.
What Jason Florentino? Was it Jason? I feel like that's not right. Bud Bundy's name.
David Faustino.
David Faustino. There it is.
You're like James Fiorentina. What is this, Dr. Brule? Like Chip Beef.
I did. I brewed that hard.
James Faustino.
Oh God.
James Fiorentino.
Cut to Karen being woken up in bed by a phone call from Bill. He frantically tells her to take the kids and go to her mother's house right now. Don't pack, just go. We see Karen get out of bed and go to her kids, presumably to do what Bill asked.
I appreciate this scene because it just ends. You don't have this whole thing where I'm showing up in the house.
And I like that they actually did it because otherwise we all would have been like, well, if he has the address to Mark, then he probably has the address to Bill. And I like that the movie thinks of that, you know?
Yeah, totally. But he didn't go there because he doesn't know, because he's got the spidey sense on his legs,
Right.
and the body parts.
He's following the appendages.
Right.
A short time jump and the cops in the corner are at Mark's place, putting his body in an ambulance. Detective Sawchuck is questioning Bill about the fight at the bar. He thinks Bill and Mark were fighting, but Bill says they weren't. Mark was trying to stop him. Bill says he's tired and asks if Sawchuck has any more questions. The detective says he does, but unfortunately he'll need to start asking them downtown.
I was like, why is Sawchuck bugging me? What is that name? Why is that name bugging me? Because Sweet Chuck is in Police Academy. The name it's Zed's partner.
Yes.
That would have been hilarious. Where were you earlier this evening?
Yeah, it was Sweet Chuck was the one that talked all like low, right? And then all of a sudden, if she had to, and she could like raise her voice up, right?
No, that's Hooks or.
Right.
But Sweet Chuck is the little guy who he worked at the light store in Police Academy 2, I think it was, when Zed and his team. Zed was originally like a bad guy.
Yeah,
and he like everything shatters in the chandelier store or whatever it is.
I loved Police Academy as a kid, but I haven't seen those movies in forever. Kind of like Space Camp and Moving Violations. These were all like movies that I watched so much as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, constantly. But then I haven't seen them in like 35 years.
You should watch Police Academy 4 again. It's hilarious.
Is that the one where they're at the beach and he writes like Dick on his chest?
No. That's part 5, the Miami one, I think.
I think I saw that in the theater as a kid.
4 is the one with David Spade where they're skateboarders.
Okay.
And it's just so funny, man. It's so stupid. I think you'll laugh more now because you've been away from it for so long.
Yeah.
Because Zed got so stupid after a while and cliche.
Did Shout Factory did anyone ever put out like a whole complete
Shout Factory
series?
just did. Yeah, Shout Factory just did, and I just got it.
The whole movie series?
Yeah, the whole movie series.
Okay. All right. Shit. I gotta. Spending way too much money on movies, guys.
I know. Sorry.
And by the way, Zach and I both just pre-ordered Extreme Ghostbusters that they just announced is coming out on DVD.
It's only $20.
I know, dude. I know. And I had like a $15 credit for something, so I was like, it was $5 for me. It's coming out in March. I can't fucking wait.
I can't wait either. I can't wait to see my bill.
Right. Cut to Lacey working on a new painting in his apartment when he hears a noise and goes to investigate. He finds the fire escape door open and closes it. The fire escape door in his apartment. Back at the Draper crime scene, Bill says to Sawchuck that he better check on Lacey as they both get in the detective's car. Back in Lacey's apartment, he's about to get back to work on the painting when a person grabs him from behind. Just then, we see a great shot looking down at a stuntman dressed as obviously a stuntman, but it's still an amazing sort of stunt.
Yeah.
He's getting thrown out a third-story window, but he grabs onto the ledge as he's about to fall. As Lacey is hanging there, the unknown assailant grabs him by the Frankenstein arm and says, "Give it back." Then he proceeds to rip Lacey's arm off at the socket, sending the artist falling to the ground. Of course, this is the exact same time Sawchuck and Cruikshanks are pulling up and Lacey's body falls through the detective's front windshield. At least this exonerates Bill.
Yeah, it would have been funny if Bill's like, "You see? It wasn't me."
A slight time jump, and now Lacey's apartment is a crime scene. Detective Sawchuck and Bill are sitting in a police cruiser now. The officer tells the professor that he'll be safe. "From now on, you'll be with me." Bill says, "I'm not safe. I'm next." As they drive away, we see Dr. Webb and one of her assailants sitting in a car watching them leave. Now, I gotta say, the first time I watched this, I didn't have subtitles on, so I didn't hear Charlie say, "Give it back," when he rips Lacey's arm out.
Yeah.
So cut to Sawchuck and Bill stopped at a red light. We see a car drive up next to the passenger side where Bill has his right arm out the window because he's smoking. The driver of the other car is bald and has a neck brace on and has a human arm sitting on the dashboard. It's Charlie Fletcher. I didn't see this. You'll never see Charlie Fletcher coming. No part of my brain thought that the head was going to be attached onto a new body and that the killer was fucking Charlie Fletcher. I was telling Myra, I was like, is this a recipient of like maybe his heart from the torso or something? But no, guys, this is the head of Charlie Fletcher. Mind blown.
Yes.
I know you've seen this movie more than me, but I mean, do you remember when you first saw it? Did you expect this at all?
I think when I first saw it, I was like, oh, really? Like, I didn't kind of expect it to be the guy from begin, because he's not like a huge part to the movie. He's just the
body.
The body, yeah.
He's like Mr. Body in Clue.
Right. Like, he doesn't matter as much as the evil doctor does at this point.
Right. But then but the movie, by the way, we only have like 12 minutes left in the movie, but it becomes now what was originally like sort of a thriller becomes this gory sort of slasher movie. But
slasher.
I like that it has a premise. Like, I like that there's a meaning behind all of the kills and it's a very direct line of what he's trying to do, you know?
Right. It's different. It's very different than what you're used to seeing in a horror film. I like that.
You called it early at the beginning of this episode. You said this is a very singular movie. There's not a lot of other movies. I mean, other movies have done it. We talk about Idle Hands and stuff, but this seems so very different than that.
Yeah. It's its own kind of thing.
Yeah. And this does not need to be remade. I think this holds up very well in 2023.
Yeah, don't remake this, please. No more remakes. No more revisions. You know, they're revisioning Roadhouse, which is getting trashed, by the way. Like, people are saying it's garbage, and like, are you surprised?
No, not at all.
Nope.
But I'm more excited about the Jeff Fahey documentary than I am about the Roadhouse remake.
That I'll watch that the day it comes out.
Me too, buddy. We both have our movies lined up for our documentaries in 2024, but I don't know, man. We may have to make a special like occasion to cover that one if it's good. But I plan on buying that the moment it fucking comes out.
Pivot.
You know me, man. I love Seinfeld, but that is one of the best Friends fucking scenes.
That was funny.
So this is awesome, dude. And by the way, this chase scene that we're gonna lead into, this is what sold the Eric Red script or the pitch. This is what sold it when he basically pitched this chase. This is what sold it to the studio. So Charlie handcuffs his left hand to Bill's right hand and speeds off. Thankfully, Detective Sawchuck does as well. Otherwise, Bill's arm would have been ripped out of the socket, which is clearly what Charlie's plan was. The two cars speed through oncoming traffic side by side as the two men are attached at the wrist. It's a fantastic spin on the typical chase scene trope.
Yeah.
Bill punches Charlie in the face as the killer tries to control his car. Charlie looks just as terrified as Sawchuck. Obviously, Charlie's plan went horribly wrong, but I love how Charlie is like just as scared as everyone else is.
It's hilarious. It's so funny.
Eventually, Bill gets Sawchuck's gun and shoots the handcuffs right at the moment before they come to like a bridge pillar that divides the lanes. I shortened this chase. It's spectacular. Just go watch the movie.
It goes on for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No.
It's awesome. And the stunts are great. And you can't tell, like, a couple times you can see that they're sort of holding hands versus, and we all know, like, it's two stunt guys. The cars are like attached underneath. They can kind of move, but they can't break away. But also, just in case, the handcuffs were fake so they could break if needed to, you know?
Yeah. And I'm a fan of underrated car chase scenes. Like, I know we talked about that with Vigilante, with Bill Lustig's Vigilante, you know, and these car chase scenes, there's a lot of great car chase scenes in movies that don't get a lot of love, and I think this is one of them.
Yeah, and this is one that you don't see something like this where they're attached at the hands, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, eventually Bill gets Sawchuck's gun. Yeah, he just, shoots the handcuffs. The detective slams on the brakes and gets out of the car and shoots at Charlie as he speeds away. Bill jumps into the driver's seat of the cop car and chases after Charlie alone. We follow Charlie as he speeds down the road, but his tire blows out and he spins into a parked car. His car explodes, as cars are wont to do in movies. Charlie gathers up all the limbs, Mark's legs and Lacey's arms, and escapes the burning wreckage. As he's walking away, the car explodes, sending the killer and his own limbs to the ground. And I can always tell when an actor has to fall. Like, I always look at their knees. You can tell he's wearing knee pads under his, scrubs or whatever he's wearing,
But it's funny because he's got the limbs and the entrails are hanging off it, and it's just all floppy.
It's such a gory mess.
It's a mess, but that's what makes it so funny.
Yep, that's what makes it awesome. Just then, Dr. Webb and her, sort of nameless assistant pull up in their car. Webb gets out and walks over to Charlie, who's on his knees holding the limbs in his arms. She kind of kneels down in front of him and puts her coat over him. I wish so we're not going to get any kind of what their connection is. I kind of wish I knew.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
maybe she wrote to him in prison or something and they developed something.
I like that idea that she's kind of infatuated with him.
Yeah, the bad boy.
Right. Really bad boy.
Unlike George Costanza when he was a bad boy when he just had his dad's car.
Yes, pretty much.
Cut to Bill writing one last entry in his journal. Dearest Karen, this may be my final journal entry. Having read this, you know the truth. I hope you understand why I have to do what I'm about to do. I love you, Karen. You and the kids are the best thing I've ever known. Bill. He kind of licks the envelope, but it doesn't seal. It doesn't close.
No, it doesn't close. And then he got poisoned from licking the envelope. There's your other Seinfeld reference.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Always.
He puts the journal in an envelope and gets out of the police car and drops it in a mailbox. He then takes Sawchuck's revolver and walks across the street to the hospital where Webb works. Bill makes his way to the operating room where his surgery first took place, and there he finds Charlie Fletcher's torso, legs, and one arm hanging and kept alive in a glass cabinet sort of contraption. The torso is moving on its own. Charlie's head isn't there. This was fucking gross, and this grossed Myra out very much.
With the pee bag and everything. Yeah. It's just, it's so gross.
I mean, I love that attention to detail with the pee bag, but it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it is. There's a movie called Tattoo that came out in the early 2000s. It's 7, where this woman goes, she hunts down for these elusive back tattoos, and she cuts the entire person's skin off and hangs them in her gallery. I think it's like that. It's been a while. I only saw it once, but it's, it's grotesque like that. This borders on that, where you're just oh, this is really gross, but still want to touch it. With my tongue.
Ew, gross. Dr. Webb says, "Welcome, Bill." He looks, and she and her assistant are wearing
Welcome to Fetish Island.
So they're wearing their scrubs, ready for an operation. This is when I was I'm not sure why the assistant, who was not in a car accident, has a kind of a sort of a black eye and kind of a bandage over his eyebrow. And I was is there a scene missing? But there isn't, because kind of the only scenes that were cut are the ones that we sort of know about. So I'm just why is he now bandaged? What happened to him?
I feel like it was a scene that was cut, but maybe they just didn't have the footage.
Yeah, okay. Or they never filmed it, although they knew what it was going to be, and then they kind of never really filmed it, and they're well, this guy doesn't really matter. No one's going to pay attention to the bandage on his forehead.
True, yeah.
Webb continues, "You wanted to give back Charlie's arm? We're ready to take it." Bill laughs and says, you're completely out of your fucking mind. And you're a threat to every living thing you touch. He pulls out his gun. Dr. Webb says, the grafting on of limbs was only the beginning. As she walks towards Bill, he aims the gun at her. She stops. Beginning? Saving Charlie Fletcher's head so he could run around and kill people? That's quite an achievement, Doc. She says that science, like nature, destroys to build. I'm part of the process that's bigger than all of us. Now we transplant heads with full brain chemistry and functions intact. Don't you see where this can lead? Bill laughs and says, yeah, straight to hell. Then he says, fuck you, and aims his gun at Dr. Webb's face. I think he's going to pull the trigger. I think he's going to fucking blow her brains out right here.
Oh, yeah.
But as he does, Charlie quietly walks up behind him with a shotgun and knocks him out with the butt of the gun. Bill wakes up strapped to the operating table. Charlie's outside the room keeping watch with the shotgun. Once Dr. Webb fires up the bone saw, Bill screams no and breaks free of his restraints. He cold cocks Dr. Webb, knocking her out, then wrestles with the assistant while Charlie aims his shotgun at them. Bill breaks free from the hold the assistant has on him just as Charlie fires the gun, blowing the assistant's head off. Bill now fights with Charlie over control of the shotgun. As they do so, Bill rips Charlie's neck brace off, revealing his scars. Just as the killer is about to shoot the gun at Bill's neck, Bill breaks Charlie's neck with the Frankenstein arm, like in the visions he had. Like I love that connection that he does what he sees Charlie had done to that girl when he breaks her neck. He does that.
Yeah. It's great. It's great brain shot. Great neck snap.
And it's almost like muscle memory, right? He just does it out of muscle memory.
Right.
Charlie falls to the ground, leaving Bill holding the shotgun. Charlie watches in horror as Bill uses the gun to shoot all of the body parts hanging in the glass case. We think Charlie Fletcher is dead.
He's not.
The scene fades out and fades in on Charlie sitting in a room in a wheelchair, staring at the wall, paralyzed from the neck down, living forever in a hell of his own head sort of created. That was the original ending. Everything after this right now is all reshoot.
Oh, interesting.
That ending didn't play for the audience. And it makes sense because, like, when he breaks his neck, he seems like he's down and out. Like, it's over, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with that, but I can see why mainstream audiences wouldn't be.
Like I said, that was the original ending that was shot, but it didn't play. Okay. Now back to the movie. Bill walks, this is all reshoots. Bill walks over to a phone and calls the police station to talk to Detective Sawchuck. He slumps down on the ground with his back against the wall. When Sawchuck picks up, he tells him he's at the hospital. Charlie Fletcher is dead and Dr. Webb is involved. Just then, Bill sees Charlie grab the gun while still laying on the ground and ducks as he pulls the trigger. The bullet hits right where Bill's head was. Charlie shoots again, this time hitting Dr. Webb, killing her. Charlie keeps shooting, but Bill dives for the shotgun and explodes Charlie's head. I like this ending much better.
I do too, because you want to see the good guy get his full comeuppance.
I don't know how Dr. Webb got shot, but I'm okay with it.
Me too. Yeah. Kind of though, like the fact that they're killed off so quickly, I'm okay with it, but that's also something you don't often see.
It almost reminds me like of a Tarantino movie or something where the violence comes super fast, and if you blink, you sort of miss it, and then all of a sudden, like 1 minute, like 1 second later, 5 people are dead, and you're like, how the fuck did this just happen?
Right.
But I almost kind of feel like that's sort of realistic. I feel like, I mean, I've never been in a situation like this, but I imagine shit would happen sort of fast, and then all of a sudden you're like, I survived. You know?
There's no like cliche, you know, it's my arm now, or I don't know.
Well, but the funny thing is, we get a fun little thing now in the denouement that's like that.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Me too.
Fade to Bill and Karen sitting in a park watching Samantha and Billy play. Bill writes in his journal, "As I sit here today, the only survivor of Dr. Webb's experiments, I feel somewhat resigned. The questions I've been asking are quite simply beyond my reach. Where does evil live? Is evil in the flesh? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Inquiring minds want to know." That's such a of the time phrase.
Because National Enquirer is always been a joke, but at one point they had quite the pull, surprisingly.
Yeah, well, because that was probably your only source of like conspiracy shit and everything.
Right.
Now it's 80% of the internet, or 100% of Fox News,
or 50% of this country.
There you go. Let's not give them that much. They're only about 30%.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I hope so.
And life goes on. I do know that evil does not live in my arm because since Charlie died, I've experienced none of the violent tendencies the arm initially manifested. I've adjusted and accepted the fact that I'm the recipient of a miraculous new surgical technique. And to that end, I owe Dr. Webb and Charlie. The arm's mine now, Chuck. I won it fair and square. I think that's awesome.
I like that too. And I like with the follow-up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Karen asks if he's leaving that last line in. Bill says sure. But Karen asks, isn't it going to be published in the Journal of Medicine? Bill says he thought he'd inject a little humor. Karen tells him it's brilliant, and they hold hands as the camera pans away and the credits roll as the aspect ratio changes. It's the same as before. So by that I mean, there's for some reason it's the two credit sequences are different, where there's a black bar on the left and the right of the TV screen as opposed to the top and the bottom. And I don't know why. But
I don't know why either, but I don't mind it. It's kind of cool.
No. Yeah, it's neither here nor there. But Zach, that is body bags, aka body parts,
aka pad parts, aka thank you, Cam, for such a great pick of a movie to break down. And of course, Corey did the breaking down. I just get to wax silly the whole entire time that he's talking. And but man, it still holds up to this day. It's a wacky, obscure horror film. It's a cult movie to the highest degree, and I loved it, still love it, and go out and watch it. It's fun.
I forgot if you had mentioned how much time had passed in between, like when you last watched it back in the, like, is this something you watched fairly regularly over time?
I remember owning the VHS copy and watching it semi-regularly, every 6 months or so, probably. Like, people come over, what do you want to watch? Let's watch something cool. You want to watch something weird? Let's watch this. And like I said, I'm, huge man crush on Jeff Fahey at the time. So that's probably why.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such a unique movie, like you said earlier. And I, reiterate everything you said, man. This is an awesome movie. I had a complete blast with it. Thank you, Cam, for bringing this one to the table. Also, thank you for introducing me to Warning Sign. I know I kind of wanted you to pick Warning Sign and everything, but Cam was the one that actually told me about Warning Sign, and I picked up the Blu-ray. Love that movie. Thought that movie was fantastic.
Yeah,
this is great.
And I will say, too, Cam probably knows this because I think he listened to the interview. We interviewed Craig Saffin on $2 Late Fee. Craig Saffin did the score for Warning Sign and came up with there's a sound in there in the movie that is officially now called the Saffin sound, or Safin sound. Craig Saffin. Yeah. Anyways, the Saffin sound in Warning Sign.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. It's like that. Bow.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And this movie's awesome too. Guys and gals, if you made it this far and you haven't watched it yet, I purposely omitted some awesome stuff, meaning like all the dialogue, from Paul Ben Victor and stuff like that. Like, you can watch that movie now. You'll get so much out of it, even knowing that, what's coming and everything. But I'm still blown away. I didn't see the whole Charlie thing coming. Like, it was his head, I was like, it can't be his fucking head,
It would have been even better if it was Charlie Murphy.
Wrong. Oh man, this was great. We said it before, but go check out the Jacked Up Review Show podcast. That's Cam Sully's show. We're gonna do another movie in a couple weeks. It's his other pick. Zach's gonna be breaking that one down. And you made it this far. We'll tell you. It's Android. It's Roger Corman's Android.
From 1982, I believe, and it's very different from Body Parts. The only connection it has is about the same runtime, believe it or not. So runtime for the win, Cam. Thanks again for picking movies that, no offense at all, obviously, to anyone, Robert in the past who's chosen movies that are really long, 2 hours plus.
Well, The Believers was long as hell. To this day, I use The Believers, which was Cam Sully's pick, as my barometer of the most notes I've ever taken. I did the breakdown for it. That was the most pages I've ever had to do, and that was Cam Sully's pick. So I think actually Cam Sully at this point has the longest pick and the shortest pick.
Yeah, I mean, runtime doesn't necessarily constitute a short notes or long notes. It doesn't. It depends on what kind of movie it is. But Android is it's another great cult classic pick. And if you've never seen Android, it's free on YouTube. Go check it out before we break it down.
Yeah, exactly. And if anybody wants, us to break down their movies, then head on over to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. That's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Sign up for our highest tier, and we will do all of this for you guys. And, a great place to find everything Podcasting After Dark is podcastingafterdark.com. We have links to our merch store, links to our Patreon page, links to, all the different episodes and everything, and any other podcatchers and social media. Everything you could possibly want is over at podcastingafterdark.com, and that's podcastingafterdark.com. Now, Zach, we are in mid-January. I know that you guys over at $2 Late Fee are on a hiatus, but that doesn't mean you're not producing content. But what is coming? Can you tease anything coming in February when you guys come back from your break?
Yeah, actually, I could give you a little bit of January stuff too.
Oh, cool.
So it's funny. We're taking a break from producing kind of like live content or maybe, current content, but we dropped some Comic-Con content from December. We have, by the time that this airs, we have something dropping on the $2 feed that will drop also on Pad. So stay tuned to both stations. And then in February, and of course, we have a brand new Territory Marks that just came out too. It's a tribute to the Von Erichs, covering two of our favorite Von Erich matches from back in the day. And then in February, it's we are going to be covering Weird Science for our season 5 premiere. Weird Science and Suzanne Snyder will be our featured guest. But we're shaking things up a little bit on $2 Late Fee and Podcasting After Dark. But you're going to have to stay tuned to that very soon. That's your tease.
Weird Science, man. I mean, as a kid, I very much enjoyed that movie. Actually, I have the Arrow Blu-ray.
Same.
Myra and I just rewatched it probably about a year and a half ago. I love it. I think it's a great movie, but I've always loved My Science Project a little bit more as a kid, although I haven't revisited My Science Project in a while. Maybe one day we'll talk to Fisher Stevens about it.
Yeah, we'll probably bring up My Science Project on this episode for sure. It's interesting. The more of the mainstream ones are the ones we get more hits on. So we dropped Pretty Woman last year. We're like, no one's going to listen to Pretty Woman. It was our number 1 rated episode for the year, I think.
I mean, it's kind of that way with Pad too. And I mean, I joke that you and I are sort of the perfect combination because like I'm sort of the mainstream cult guy, and like I'll bring the mainstream ones like Zombie or something. But then like I swear to God, your shit gives us the street cred, man. Like with the stuff that you bring to the table that like I've never heard of and it's like super obscure. That's what fucking gives us the cred right there.
Right. And I'll tell you what, I'll take the street cred any day, though I'm so happy that we have a yin yang balance
I think we do. I think, and you and Dustin do as well. So it's
we do.
It's all great. Yeah. It's all freaking great, and I love $2 late fee and everything. And yeah, we're gonna have something dropping pretty soon, and some new content concepts coming at you guys as well. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Keep looking to the stars, guys, and keep looking inside those holes, baby.
I can't follow up with that. So.
No, you can't. And as always.
Get this arm off me! Oh, no, sorry. We'll catch you on the dark side. Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a retro-based podcast covering movies, comics, video games, and more.
Check us out every Monday where we hit the rewind button and dig into some of our favorite content from the past. We like to keep things fun, lighthearted, and informative.
Do you feel like you need more nostalgia in your life? Then check out Talking Back. We're available everywhere podcasts are found.